you want to watch, go to Big Willie's. You need a holiday party venue, go to Big Willie's. Give them a call, tell them OC sent you. They'll let you take advantage of the craft food menu, the craft cocktails, the cold beers on draft, everything you could possibly need. Big Willie's has it. Special treat today, Dishing with Dev comes a day early. Devin Dampier here live in person in studio right off the top. Brought to you by our friends over at ARUP Blood Services. Give local, save local. Polylift Concrete Lifting and Piering. America First Credit Union. And, of course, Culligan Water of Salt Lake City. Taste that Culligan difference. Dev, 10-2, won the last 5 games of the season. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm proud of my team. We made that a goal after our second loss. We can't afford to take any more. We want to have a chance at what we're going to do, and man, we finished.
You finished strong, and I don't want to focus on anything negative because I found myself, and I admitted this on the air on Monday, I found myself watching that game against Kansas. You spoiled us at some point during the season where the wins were like 55 points to, defense is killing them, you guys are killing them. And I found myself against Kansas State and then against Kansas. I'm just like, oh, what's wrong with this team? Even towards the end where I'm like, oh, they're going to win. It's fine. Like, but why aren't they winning so ugly? And then I snapped out of it a little bit, and I was like, a win is a win is a win. So I don't want to focus on anything negative here, but what you just said was that, if you wanted to have a chance to do what you wanted to do, this is how it had to be. You had to win these last 5 games of the year, and you did that. And unfortunately, you still don't have a chance to do the things that you wanted to do. How is that sitting with you right now?
Man, it hurts. It hurts always. I'm just a competitor. It hurts not to get where you wanted, but just again overall though, 10-win season is not bad at all. We're very proud of what we were able to accomplish. And yeah, whatnot, but yeah, it's funny. All those games we were blowing people out, and then we don't do it, and it's like, yo, what happened? Like,
it really is. I mean, it's not funny because it kind of sucks to realize you're feeling that way when you're watching. And look, I'm supposed to be a professional about how I watch Utah games and be as like neutral and whatever. I'm on the home of the Utes. I was a Ute myself. I'm watching as a fan, right?
Yeah.
And realizing like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this defense? How are they giving up 300 yards to Kansas? And then you're like, wait, hold on. They're up 10 right now. There's like 3 minutes left to play. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Why am I acting this way? But it's an elevation of expectations.
Yeah,
and
no
you
doubt.
guys elevated the expectations, especially offensively. We got so accustomed to that many points being scored, which, by the way, has never really happened for Utah football. So you broke the fan base, I guess.
Yeah, set those expectations high. Gotta keep on living to it.
You really do. and look, now we get ready for a bowl game. Now, we were told that a team meeting happened the other night, and it was to talk about bowl prep schedule. Is that what you guys were getting into on whatever it was Monday, Tuesday night?
Yeah, that was went in there, normal business, covered a Kansas game, and yeah, just bowl schedule, what's that's gonna look like next couple of weeks, and all that. But it's funny, as we were leaving, I talked to some people there, like, dang, I was expecting Whit to say if he's staying back on or not.
So even you guys on the team were like, maybe this is going to be when Whit reveals it.
Some people thought it. I didn't think so. I mean, I keep trying to tell people we're out of the loop just as much as everybody else is. We have no clue.
Do you think if and when an announcement is made, it's made to the team first, or is it just like we all get a press release at the same time?
Man, it might be we get it and then he announces it right after.
Yeah, I think that's probably how it'll happen. Because what's interesting about Kyle Whittingham is I don't think Coach Whitt feels accountable to anyone at all except, I mean, obviously his family, but except the players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there are coaches out there who have some relation. Like, Lane Kiffin clearly feels like the media needs to be involved in his career. You know what I mean? And there's probably coaches who are like, well, I got to tell my boss, the athletic director, first. Kyle Whittingham strikes me as a guy who's like, I care about my staff and my players, and then whoever finds out after that, I don't care.
Yeah, he definitely carries himself very internally and to his close people.
All right, I don't want to bounce around too much. Let's focus on this Kansas game because it is the final win of the season, 31-21. Really good game for you. 3 touchdowns, 253 yards. I thought we'd get Wayshawn Parker over 100 yards again. Didn't quite happen. You hooked up with Larry. He got almost 100 yards in this game. You're developing nice chemistry with him. Now that you've had a chance to digest it, how'd you feel about your performance, the offense's performance against Kansas?
Yeah, I think the first half, obviously, we just didn't capitalize on too many of our third down situations, and just was kind of back on chains. That's what we talked about at halftime. Just let's play more efficient ball, and put points on the board, and that's kind of what we did. And I thought defense stepped up in the red zone quite a bit. I think they had 3 interceptions inside of that kind of 25. So, I just thought we stepped up, found a way to win.
I mentioned Larry Simmons. He's come on strong at the end of the season. You guys have obviously – his role grew. Seems like the chemistry grew a little bit more. We've talked about it before, but the dude just – his awareness when he's within like 2 yards of the sideline is something different. It's neat. I don't know how he does it, but when you're – now you got one more game to play with him, presumably guaranteed in this bowl. And then, of course, transfer portal's open and people are already getting phone calls and things like that. When you're developing chemistry with someone and it's kind of happening in the second half of the season, are you campaigning like, hey, let's make sure we can ride this through spring ball and into next year too?
Yeah, I got a big involvement in recruiting and keeping guys here for sure. So those conversations definitely happen. I'm very transparent with people. I let them know how I feel personally, and I'm always going to support them, whatever happens. Those conversations come up near the end of the year. But, Larry's one of those guys, man. Love to have you back. Imagine you're going to keep progressing in this offense. It was your first year. Second year, you're just going to be more comfortable, and ball's going to find you a lot more.
We talked about this a little bit last week. I don't need you to name names, but how crazy is tampering right now? Conference championship week for whoever's in a conference championship, and everyone else is figuring out what happens next year. How crazy is the recruiting that's happening with players already on teams?
Man, it's serious. It's pretty hectic. A lot of agents are getting their calls because that's how you communicate. Agents are getting it, giving it to the players, and it's a lot going on. It's crazy world we live in, the college football.
Do guys typically does it seem like guys want to play it close to the vest, or because you're all teammates, it's like a brotherhood? Are you saying, hey, I got a call from these guys are bugging my agent and these guys are bugging my agent? Like, how communicative are people with the stuff that they're hearing?
Yeah, I think it's probably how close you are to someone.
Okay.
If they would give you that information or not.
Sure.
Most people want to stay, for sure, especially at Utah. I think Utah's one of those schools because, every school, someone's getting tampered, those top guys and all that. So Utah's just one of those places where, it's got to look really, really good for you to try to leave here because you just got a good thing going on.
Does Kyle Whittingham's eventual decision, and we think we're going to get something this week, does that change the calculus for anybody on this team? Like, is everyone that's on the team right now, you think, willing to play for head coach Morgan Scalley the way they were willing to play for head coach Kyle Whittingham?
Yes, for sure. We love Whit, no doubt. And I think he's just made it where Scalley's kind of filling in his role at a very high level, as we can see as players already, that Scalley's ready for it when the time comes. So, I couldn't imagine, that being a big factor of why people would start looking other places or things like that.
How much did you pay attention to the mess that was going on in Provo these last couple of days with Kalani Sitake getting a lot of attention from Penn State, offers from Penn State? Ultimately, after our show went final yesterday, BYU did the right thing. They extend Kalani. They give him what he asked for, and they throw a bunch of money at the BYU football program. How much attention did you pay to that?
Yeah, that's information hard to miss, especially in Utah.
Yeah.
It's been a hectic 48, 72 hours just with everything. I know Auburn got a new coach, and someone just said like South Florida is looking into
Hartline, the Ohio State play caller. Yeah,
so, man, so many things just happening. So
yeah, Stanford got their. I mean, the dust is starting to settle a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Now, when you see, I mean, I know you're focused on Utah football, but that's the rival, right? That's BYU. And look, it's a great thing for them. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. Kalani's a great coach. Having that level of financial commitment that he's been promised is obviously going to be very nice for BYU. Is it a motivator in any way? Not that you need more motivation, but is it a motivator in any way to be like, all right, bet, let's see, you got your guy. Now we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, man, it's hard not to want to get those get-back games for sure. So next year, that's a game that's always going to be circled. It's rival game, both very two talented teams. So just for it to always be a good game, I'm always hyped to play in that game. I'm happy I get the second year in it to do that. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Devin Dampier is our guest here. Edition with Dev is brought to you by Culligan Water of Salt Lake City. Taste the Culligan difference. Polylift Concrete Lifting and Piering, ARUP Blood Services, Give Local, Save Local, and America First Credit Union. Last night, the second to last, the penultimate college football playoff ranking comes out. And despite the fact that you've won 5 in a row, and despite the fact that you've found a way to beat Kansas State in a comeback form, and you beat Kansas, for the second straight week, they drop Utah in the rankings, now at number 15 in the latest college football playoff rankings. How does it make you feel?
Man, it's so weird because it felt like college football, they were messing with us at the beginning of the whole rankings and all that, and then we see other teams have close games and almost lose, and I would say less caliber opponents than who we played against, people with worse records, and it's like they stay right at where they're at, or they might end up bumping up a spot. So it was like, man, we're just somehow dropping after winning games by whatever challenges come up. So it sucks. It feels disrespected a little bit, but man, yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, not
right?
at all.
It's like
accept it.
The unfortunate reality is you can't even argue against it. There's no one to argue with about it. It's just like, but we won the games,
right?
And I mean, what's coming out now, what people are seeing now, is that obviously the playoff committee can't, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, they can't get away from their biases, right? They're positioning all this stuff to make sure that Miami's in the conversation and Notre Dame's in the conversation. And I think both of those teams are deserving of being in the conversation. But to see what happened with your Utah team that was put right outside looking in the first ranking and then won all the games since.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, just kidding.
Now we're a distance away.
Yeah, you're lower now, despite the fact that you won all these games. You controlled what you can't control. We're going to punish you because it wasn't as impressive as Vanderbilt or whoever. It's an interesting, I think, insight into how the college football playoff committee world works, and it's not going to work in favor of the Big 12 conference and not in favor of a program like Utah, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like, when is it ever going to settle in with people, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, at the beginning of the season, Big 12 did play against SECs.
Yeah.
Probably at the beginning, and I don't know what the record of the
Well, unfortunately, it was Arizona. Somebody lost to Mississippi State, and it ended up being, they ended up being not a great SEC team. But the non-conference record, Baylor, Auburn, that
was like a close game.
The non-conference record for the Big 12 was really solid, was really, really good.
Yeah.
And that has been a problem in the past when Utah was in the Pac-12. I mean, there was a year where the Pac-12 was like 2-10 in the preseason against other in the non-conference against other Power 4 conferences or whatever.
Right.
So that wasn't the problem this year.
Yeah.
The problem this year is that it's a crowded field, right?
Yeah.
And we've been saying, man, you need to be a league that is not full of really good teams that can all beat each other up. You need to have some elite teams.
Right.
And even though that happened this year in the Big 12 Conference with Texas Tech and BYU both being one-loss teams and you all being a two-loss team, separating yourself from the pack, the college football world was just like, no, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right. This is going to be a one-bid league.
Yeah, which is, I don't know. Don't get my frustrations up right now.
We're stirring it up with Devin Dampier. It is also National Signing Day for these 17 and 18-year-old kids. They're making big decisions about their future. It's not as permanent of a decision as it used to be because the transfer portal is a lot more flexible now. But take me back to kind of the pressure of that moment for you. Take me back to the decision-making process when you started your college football career and when you initially signed on the dotted line to go to the school.
Yeah. Man, I always tell people, because I get asked for advice and stuff like that, I always say go somewhere where you can play because, man, just the way football works now, if you ball out at what you consider a lower D1 school, the high D1s would rather pick you up than get a high school kid. So
yeah,
I just tell them always find a place where you're comfortable and you're able to get the field and show what you can do because if going up in conference is something you want to do, it's more reachable. So that's kind of how I broke down my decision. Went somewhere where I could play right away.
With that in mind, with the knowledge that, like, hey, if I ball out at New Mexico,
yeah, I'll be able to go.
Then someone bigger.
Wherever I want.
All right, interesting.
So it's kind of how I took the opportunity, and man.
Do you think that's how most young guys are now? Because I mean, kids are smart, their families are smart, they know the reality of the college football world. But it used to be there was a time where when you were signing, it's like, am I sure I want to play for this coach for the next 4 years? Do I sure I want to go live in this city for the next 4 years? Do you think that the majority of recruits now are sitting down saying, hey, this is a good 1 or 2 year deal for me, and we'll see what happens after that?
Yeah, I think committing to schools, you would expect, 2 to 4 years, depending on how good of a base it is.
Sure.
I would say Utah's a good spot where not too many coaches changes are going to happen and whatnot. But, I mean, we've seen just this year how many different places just switched up. So, yeah, those are just things to consider. The 5 and 4 stars, they're probably going to always have their options pretty open. But,
yeah,
more for 3 stars and under because I don't think as many scholarships are being offered to high schoolers right now. So just take that opportunity.
I remember I was doing radio when this all became a thing, and we saw that first opening of the transfer portal as we know it now, and how many guys moved from a New Mexico to a Utah, how many guys went from like a Utah State to a BYU. And I said then, I was like, I think that the transfer portal, before it's all said and done, is going to be the primary avenue for power teams to get big-time players. And we had a couple coaches on. This is when the Pac-12 was still a thing. And they're like, no. It's always going to be high school first. You recruit, you focus on the high school athlete. You want to develop the high school athlete, and that's going to be your bread and butter. But now we're at least a 50-50 split.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's only – now it's not even just like group of 5 to power 4. It's very common for like lower level, a 6-win power 4 team to give their best players or for their best players to leave to like a conference championship level team, even in the same conference. It's crazy now.
Yeah, no, it's a new game. It's a new game. I think we're one of those schools that kind of prioritize still getting high school athletes.
Sure.
Our school is big on evolving people because, man, it tends to happen quite a bit here at Utah. People come here early and turn into the best person they can be. So we're big on that still.
Let's talk about, because this is something I wanted to bring up on the show today, the freshmen that you all benefited from on this team. Guys like J.J. Buchanan, who ended up being a big part of the receiving offense later on in the year. Obviously, your guy Bird Ficklin, he scored 10 touchdowns for this team. Daniel Bray ended up having a bigger role at the end of the season. I mean, you take away the production of those true freshmen, and this is a totally different season.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. So I think that's also should be appealing to people coming here too, knowing if you believe in your talents and you believe you should be able to play, we're more than willing to do it. Here at Utah, if you can prove that you can go out there and make plays and do the right things, you got a shot.
How well do you know your teammates' stats? You probably know your own stats. How well do you know, like, the stats of the guys around you?
I'll know if I ask about it.
Like, if I asked you, how many touchdowns did J.J. Buchanan score?
I don't know, but I could probably say about 4.
4 is correct. All right. The reason I'm bringing that up, we may or may not be using this as a trivia question answer later on in the show for tickets. But I looked this up because it's signing day. Utah's bringing in a crop of true freshmen, some of whom are going to be expected to contribute right away. Probably more next year will have to contribute than this year because this was a pretty experienced team that came back, right? Just on the offense. I'm not even talking about the defensive guys because more activity from true freshmen in the offense. And I guess you have to – one of these touchdowns was special teams with Mana. But 16 touchdowns were scored by true freshmen on this football team this year. 16.
That's what's up.
You take away 16 touchdowns, and this is not a 10-2 team anymore.
Yeah.
The freshmen are massively important. Even on a very experienced team like the one you all had, true freshmen can be a big impact if you develop them the right way.
Yeah, no doubt. That's why I love Beck's offense. I think we do what it takes to win, but we find players and we find out what they're good at, and man, they make their way on that field.
All right, let's project forward to this bowl game. Do you care where you play? Do you care who you play? It's not a big time. It's not a conference championship game. It's not a college football playoff game. It gets thrown around in the media a lot. These bowl games, if it's not something like that, they're meaningless. Tell me how meaningful it is to you to be involved in a bowl game to finish out this Utah season.
Yeah, for me, I still build a brotherhood with my teammates. I'm more than happy to go on that field with those guys one more time. So yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me. Just to be able, got a couple people going to the draft. Just know the team's not gonna look the same again next year. So just one more chance to go out with those guys. Each bowl game, I mean, there's certain bowl games you would rather go to. Vegas Bowl is pretty appealing. How could it not be?
Because it's Vegas?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. All right.
Be young. A lot of our teammates.
You're 21, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you're over 21, the Vegas Bowl is a little bit more appealing. You could sit down and you can play some blackjack. You can play some poker. You can do the other stuff that 21-year-olds are allowed to do in Vegas. Although I would never endorse that idea, Coach Scally, Coach Whittingham. I would never encourage such behavior at a bowl game. But so it seems like that's the most likely destination probably for your team.
Yeah, which would be pretty cool for us, no doubt. Got some people that's from there too, so they get to see their families and stuff like that.
Okay, let's say Spencer Fano calls you. You get invited to the Vegas Bowl. Spencer Fano calls you and says, Dev, I will play if you tell me I should play. If you tell me I should sit just to protect myself for the draft, I will do that. What are you going to tell him to do?
It's a lot of pressure. Man.
I don't think he's actually going to put it on you, by the way.
Yeah, no doubt. But man, I'm big on he's made it for sure. I wouldn't risk that.
Yeah.
He's already put enough on the line for me during the season, just fighting through injuries and stuff. I'd rather him get as healthy as he can get sooner than later, just so he's good by the time the combine and all that comes around. So my advice would probably be, stay getting healthy.
Same for Caleb, right?
Yeah, but man, those are guys. They've been here. They've been here since their freshman year. So man, they love this place. One more game for them. That might mean a lot to them also. So.
Part of the reason I ask you that is because, I can sit here and spew into the microphone my opinions about how players feel and how players should feel, but you got to be a player right now in this modern era of college football to really know, what the dynamic in the locker room and with your teammates is like. There are people who are old school football fans. I remember when guys started to sit out bowl games. Like, this is probably 10 plus years ago now, when guys started to be like, I'm not going to play in that bowl game. And I remember being like, no, you can't do that. What are you doing? You have to finish out the season.
Yeah.
You have to, and then like more and more guys started to do it, and guys that were like all the way bought in and like super hardcore about their teams started to do it. And you're like, oh wait, maybe my thought process on this is outdated. And it is, to think like, oh, you have to play. Now, if it's a playoff game, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, right.
But in the Vegas Bowl, like, I don't know. But also, the counterpoint to that is like Spencer probably could have sat out 7 games this year and still been a first-round draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Like,
that kid's a stud. Yeah.
I mean, Nick Bosa, not Joey Bosa. Nick Bosa is, he ended up going number 2 overall. He played 3 games as a junior and then was just like, I got a little ankle problem. I'm done. And it didn't hurt his draft stock. So we're lucky that these guys decided to play the whole season. You're luckier than I am that they decided to play the whole way.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky that they fought through their things to continue to protect me back there. So, yeah, no, it's changed. It's changed.
It's changed. It's a different thing. You should be proud of the season you put together. I hope you are.
Yeah, it's solid. I get annoyed every time about my injuries. It's the most annoying thing I've fought through in a minute, just football wise. So, just kind of locked in for next year. Like, man, I can't wait to get back on that field and full 100 again, because I haven't felt like that in a minute. So,
what do you think spring football looks like for you? Obviously, we'll talk to you before then, but given the fact that you have to heal up from a long season where you were plagued by injuries, some of them a lot more significant than we probably ever knew about. What do you think spring ball looks like for you?
Yeah, man, springs. I mean, I think they said there's only one portal time now. There's not one after spring ball. So, man, the people you develop with in the spring are going to be there in the fall too. So, I think for me, again, getting healthy, however long that takes, whatnot. But, man, a lot of our captains are leaving this year. I can assume I'm going to end up stepping in that role. So, I gotta be there for the full team, not just offense. Being a captain, you represent the whole team. So, just being on things, setting our standard from what the past guys set for us. Now I know the standard. Now that I've been here for a year, so just being able to set that base and build chemistry with my teammates.
The transfer portal is coming. I imagine your agent's going to get a phone call. How are you going to handle that?
Man, I'm big on staying. Honestly, I have no intentions to leave. So, I mean, I'm pretty settled right now. I'm pretty much chilling.
I'm not gonna make you make any promises, but your
doubt.
priority is you want to be with the University of Utah next year.
Yeah. I think I'm comfortable if Scally steps in as head coach. I'm really comfortable with that. Obviously, me and Beck, I trust him more than anyone else. So, those are 2 pretty big steps for me to stay here for sure.
I think Utah fans, you can keep Devin here. I think you got to keep Jason Beck here. I think he's going to be getting phone calls too, which makes me a little bit nervous. But those are bigger fish to fry. That's above my pay grade. We're going to keep talking. We'll talk before the bowl game and all that stuff. Appreciate you coming in. Congrats on a great regular season.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you.
That's Devin Dampier. Dishing with Dev is brought to you by America First Credit Union, Culligan Water of Salt Lake City, Concrete Lifting and Piering by Polylift, and ARUP Blood Services. Give local, save local. Adam Rittenberg joins us, ESPN National College Football Insider, to talk about Kalani Sitake's extension, last night's college football playoff rankings, and the insanity of this coaching carousel. Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We're efforting a conversation with Adam Rittenberg, ESPN College Football Insider. Look, big thanks to Devin Dampier for joining us. Schedule's worked out, so he was able to join us right off the top of the show today. That's wonderful. The dude's just got a great perspective on things. Utah finishes 10-2 and is headed to a bowl game. We will figure out on Sunday where they're headed. Now, I spent the last 2 days of the show spending way, way, way too much time talking about BYU football and the Kalani Sitake situation as the Cougars had to figure out a way to retain their head coach. And I told you he wasn't going to end up going anywhere. And then I was like, man, maybe he will, because I had the same sources that probably a lot of you were hearing from that were saying, hey, as of yesterday morning, Penn State came with an increased offer. And the stance by Kalani was always, I will take a hometown discount, but you have to show me that you're serious about me, about my assistant coaches, about the NIL commitment, all that stuff. And much to the chagrin of every Utah fan, as much as you hate it, you got to give credit where it's due. BYU stepped up in a huge way, and if the reports are correct, Kalani Sitake is now either the highest paid or very close to being the highest paid coach in the Big 12 Conference. I just pulled it up today, the USA Today comprehensive list that they put out every year has not been updated since October 8th. So it's definitely not 100% accurate because guys like, Clark Lee and Kurt Signetti and some of these guys got big-time contracts this season, got big-time extensions and big-time boosts this season. But I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, 877-353-0700, I don't think we've seen that from Texas Tech yet. I don't think they've boosted Joey McGuire higher than he was at before. And the most recent list, again, updated back in October, the most recent list has the highest paid Big 12 coach, Deion Sanders, at $9 million a year. And the average annual value of his contract is over $10 million, but this year it was just under $9 million. So if reports are correct, and I know all of you BYU fans out there are like, you never know how much BYU coaches are making. That's right. The school doesn't release the information. But you know who does like to leak that information? Their agents. The guys representing these coaches want you to know how much money they're making. First of all, they, as agents, want everyone to know, wow, you just got the BYU head coach $10 million. Maybe I need you to be my agent. And also, agents typically are a little bit braggadocious, a little show-offy. So I'm believing the ballpark reports from guys like Pete Thamel, who are well-sourced, saying that Kalani's got this contract that's worth between $9 and $9.5 million per year. And that is big-time money, certainly in the whole landscape of college football, but it is first, second, third best in the Big 12 Conference. That's huge for BYU. And the other thing that's huge is the optics that Penn State tried to get your guy. And Penn State had to go back to Nittany Mountain with their tail tucked between their legs. Adam Rittenberg joins us now on the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll talk about this and everything else in the college football world. Adam, how are you? Welcome.
Hey, good, OC. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Tell me your reaction to the extension that Kalani Sitake received from BYU. I guess it was yesterday evening when we really heard about it.
Yeah, I'm obviously happy for Kalani and the fans there. He's really a guy who has become the face of the program over the last decade and will continue to do so with the success that they're having. And I mean, he's a genuine guy, as you know, loves BYU, wants to be there, but he also wants to compete at the highest level. So it's understandable that he listened to Penn State and maybe was one foot out the door, but ultimately, where do I think he belongs? It's BYU, and that's where he's going to be, obviously, for the next few years.
So there's another little part of this, of the reporting that, hey, BYU not only promised Kalani Sitake this salary, but an increased value for his assistant pool, and also NIL funds. And the College Sports Commission is supposed to be here saying, like, hey, wait, we're doing a pseudo salary cap, revenue sharing, and we're trying to keep it down. And there's plenty of schools who are telling their coaches, like, yeah. Well, don't worry about that. We're going to give you money in legitimate NIL deals, and you'll be able to pay these rosters. Is there ever going to be a balance struck between what the messaging is in the College Sports Commission trying to level the playing field and the arms race of this money?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, there's always workarounds, right, financially. And some schools are just set up better than others because of their locations or their brands or their donor bases. And I do think that's an advantage that BYU has, that maybe it hasn't always maximized. And sometimes you need a situation like this to, especially at a point where you're a win away from being in the college football playoff, a win away from being Big 12 champions, to galvanize the community in a way to ensure that Kalani's the coach, but also that he has the support to pay his assistants, but also compete for the best players that BYU can acquire and retain. So it all goes together. And, oftentimes it is, another job or the possibility of another job that creates that tension and also the opportunity that BYU's now capitalized on.
Is Utah properly rated, sitting at 15 in the most recent college football playoff rankings?
Yeah, I think they are pretty close to where they should be with the way that, the committee has been lukewarm on the Big 12. Maybe that's a bigger discussion, but I think they've been consistent about how they viewed the Big 12. Utah having 2 losses within the league ultimately hurts them, especially the margin of defeat to Texas Tech at home. I think is a hard one for, and again, Utah's been living on the edge a little bit. They were very fortunate to beat Kansas State, and they've had some of those closer calls, and so I think they're about where they should be, because they're in that group with a really good Texas team. We saw what they did to A&M. Vanderbilt has in its mind a case to be in the college football playoff, and I think they do have a case. And so that's where Utah finds itself. And, with 12 teams, some really good teams are going to get left out every year. And unfortunately, I think for Utah, they're going to be one of them.
We just had a conversation with Utah's starting quarterback, Devin Dampier, about exactly that, about, a 10-win season ultimately probably results in a trip to the Vegas Bowl. And if we did have this conversation back in August, and I think I predicted that, well, a 10-win season is good enough to get you to the college football playoff. It's probably going to get you at least to the conference championship game, and instead it's 2 11-win seasons in the Big 12 championship game. And most of the conversation and most of the logic seems to be that, well, only one of those teams can afford to lose that game and still be in the college football playoff. Are you in the school of thought that BYU's got to win to be in, or could a 2-loss Cougars team still get that last spot?
No, I think they got to win to be in. Now, it would be interesting to see, because we're all kind of anticipating that Notre Dame versus Miami debate. But it would be interesting to see if where BYU will fall. It'd be hard to see them obviously jumping ahead of a team with a loss. But I think again, it's if you're Kalani Sitake, you tell your players, hey, this is our opportunity. We're a hard team to beat, much less beat twice. We know they're very talented, and they are, but we're talented too, and we're capable of winning this type of game. And if you don't win that game, yeah, you're probably out. But if you do win that game, what an incredible week for BYU football.
Adam Rittberg's our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We're talking the national landscape of college football. You're in Big Ten country. Well, what is the reaction in the Penn State fan base and world right now that they're down? Kalani was not their top candidate. He was a great candidate, but he wasn't their first choice. And now I don't know how far down the list they are, but they got another no.
They got another no, and it's been a series of them. And there really were tiers of candidates that Penn State was interested in, and one by one, either they've most of them have stated their schools with enhanced contracts, or they've told the Penn State folks no, and it's just a pretty jarring search to observe, from the outside, because when they made the move, I really thought that they would be able to land someone who they were really excited about, and they'll still present that at the end of the day. But we all know that hey, they wanted Mike Elko, and Mike Elko re-signed. They certainly would have been interested in Curt Cignetti and Matt Rule, and they end up re-signing. And then it gets down to the Eli Drinkwitzes and the Clark Lees and Brent Key, who re-signed today with Georgia Tech. He was someone who interviewed with Penn State, and what I was told made a really good impression on them. He's going back to Georgia Tech. And then Kalani, who, again, great coach, but kind of an odd fit for Penn State. I didn't see him as the Penn State coach in his career, but he's almost coming. And then at the last minute, he stays. So they are, it's going to be very hard for them to stand up there and spin this as a successful search. Even though I always say this, they may end up with a really good coach at the end of the day. Sometimes these searches where it goes down to the sixth or seventh choice end up working out, but it certainly has not been smooth for Penn State or their athletic director, Pat Kraft.
It's signing day, as you are well aware, and I'm watching all of these flips from Penn State to other places, including to Virginia Tech, where James Franklin is right now. And I imagine they're just panicking in the fan base over all of it because you don't have a coach, and now you don't have a signing class.
Yeah, and that's a very typical fan thing to do. I'm not minimizing it because it is a concern, but I sometimes think that there's too much placed on, oh, my God, we got to save the recruiting class. Well, no, you got to hire the coach for the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And that person will figure it out, especially with the portal. But it's concerning. I mean, to see where Penn State is ranked recruiting-wise is jarring because we were used to seeing them, in the top 10, top 15, top 20 under James Franklin. It was a program where talent was not the issue. All you have to do is look at the NFL draft history and see how many Penn State players were drafted under Franklin and how many will be off of this current roster. So, I'm not concerned long-term about their ability to get talent, but it certainly, creates some problems for next season. What type of team are they going to have? Are they going to have to go heavy portal just to field a competitive team? How long will the new coach need to get his feet under him going forward? So anyway, all that's going to be things to watch here.
This is probably the question that everyone who listens to my show is so sick of hearing me ask everyone, but I appreciate multiple perspectives, including your national perspective on this. Kyle Whittingham has coached a Utah football team to a 10-2 regular season that, as we've already discussed, does not end in a trip to the conference championship game or the college football playoff, and we know that those are important goals to him. But he's been flirting with retirement for probably 3 years now, maybe more than that. Do you feel like maybe this bowl game coming is the last time we see Kyle Whittingham on the sideline?
Yeah, I felt all season this was going to be his last season, and you certainly saw the emotion that he showed after that, after his final home game. And I think Kirk Ferentz shows a lot of emotion too. You wonder, is he thinking that this is it? And maybe not. Kyle's obviously in great shape. I think both of us would love to be in that kind of shape. At his age, you've probably got a better chance than me of being in that kind of shape. But he certainly can continue. But the nice thing about about Utah's situation is that they have a clear plan in place with Morgan Scalley. There would not be major disruption if Kyle decides to retire, today or tomorrow or after the bowl game or even well after the season. They can move into that next phase fairly seamlessly, which, we're seeing at some of these other programs that's been harder to do.
Would it be a disservice to college football if Texas is not in the college football playoff?
No, it would not. I actually think it would. I know we're going to have OC a 9-3 team in this thing sooner than later. At least a 9-3 at large. We could get a 8-5 conference champion coming out of the ACC after this weekend. But I would love for that to be held off as long as possible. I still think winning 10 games should count for something. And in Texas, in my mind, had a disqualifying loss. Their loss at Florida, which was not close, takes them out of the mix, much like Alabama's loss at Oklahoma last year took them out of the mix, much like Ole Miss's loss at Florida last year took them out of the mix. And I know that all games are seen equally, but when some of those losses take place midway through the season or towards the end of the season, it's just hard to get over that. And so, Texas has won some great games this year. Certainly, the A&M, Vandy, and Oklahoma wins are impressive on the resume. But you also have to look at not only that they've lost the three, but they also were really fortunate to beat Kentucky, not a good team. They were really fortunate to beat Mississippi State, not a good team. And I just think there's other profiles that are stronger at the end of the day.
Who's going to win the Heisman Trophy, Adam?
It'll be interesting to see. I'll be down in Indianapolis this weekend for the Big Ten game with Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin going at it, the two quarterbacks. I know Ohio State's still promoting Jeremiah Smith, which I think is a mistake. You got to coalesce behind your guy who has a chance to win it, which is Julian Sayin. But then you got Diego Pavia, and his personality and the way he plays and his value to the team. It's hard to write him off at all in that conversation. So I think those are probably your top three. And then Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, the running back, who's just been outstanding and has so many highlight plays. I think he's in that mix too. So I'd expect to see, all four or at least three of those guys as finalists, but then the award going to one of the quarterbacks. And what's exciting for Mendoza and for Sayin is that they go against each other. They both are facing top 5, top 10 defenses in many categories, and they have a final statement to make. And I always say this, if you're a Heisman voter, and I'm fortunate enough to be one, do not cast your vote until the very last minute. You owe that to the award. This is a life-changing award, and anyone who casts their vote before watching that Big Ten game, in my view, should have their vote taken away.
Last thing before I let you go, is Texas Tech a national championship contender?
Oof. It'll be – I say no only because I'm just not a Baron Morin believer at the end of the day. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, and I think he gets hurt too much. And I worry about him getting through the entire playoff without an injury because it's happened throughout his career. But, man, they're good defensively. And it would be fun to watch, their defense against some of these top offenses, ultimately, like an Ohio State or an Indiana or Texas A&M's got a terrific offense. Be fun to watch Texas Tech going against them. So it's a really differently built Texas Tech team than we're used to from the past, where it was all quarterback driven and receiver and throwing it around and the air raid. This is a new day in Lubbock, and I think that, hey, if they get great play and health from Baron Morton, maybe they can. I just that he's the one that I'm a little bit unsure of, is whether he can do enough to lift them to a national title.
I lied. That wasn't my last question, because I asked myself the same thing. Are they true national championship contenders? I don't think it's 12 teams. Everyone's going to have a chance to compete for it that makes it into the playoff, but I don't think all 12 really have a shot to win it. How many teams in that field have a real shot to win it in your mind?
Well, here's the thing. If Ohio State does what it has done the last few months to like an Indiana, there may only be one team that can win it. They're that good. They may be a better version of what they were last year, even though they had a lot of players on that team go on to the NFL. You could argue they're better defensively. You can argue. I don't think you can argue this. They are better at quarterback with Julian Sayin. All due respect to Will Howard, and they still have Jeremiah Smith. They still have Carnell Tate. They found ways to run the ball against Michigan. So, taking them aside, if Ohio State is beatable, then yeah, I think Indiana can win. I think Georgia can win. I think A&M can win. Ole Miss is such a difficult situation to analyze because of what's happened there. So it's not a 12-team list, but maybe it's a 5 or 6-team list at the most. But, hey, if Ohio State is rolling, it may be a 1-team list.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I might share that opinion, and that's not as fun as the rest of a college football season. But we'll let it play out, and then we'll talk about it with you next time we have you on. Adam, appreciate your time today. Thank you, sir.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
That's Adam Rittenberg, ESPN College Football Insider on the National Front. All right, we're going to take a real quick hot lunch. I'm just going to ask a trivia question to give away 4 Runnin' Utes tickets against Mississippi State next Saturday. Not this one, next Saturday. The Salt Lake Showcase at the Delta Center. Top of hour number 2. Alex Jensen, head coach of the Running Utes, is going to join us. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, 4 tickets to the Salt Lake Showcase that will feature Utah versus Mississippi State at the Delta Center Saturday, December 13th. True freshman scored how many touchdowns for the University of Utah football team this year? It's signing day. You're going to bring in a whole new class of true freshmen this year. A very good season. You depended pretty heavily, surprisingly, on offensive weapons that happened to be freshmen. True freshman scored how many touchdowns for the University of Utah football team in the 2025 regular season? 877-353-0700 if you know the answer. Alex Jensen, head coach of your Runnin' Utes, next on the Sean O'Connell Show to start hour number 2. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Hour number 2 begins here on ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM. We're going to connect with Alex Jensen, head coach of the Runnin' Utes, here in just a second. Salt Lake Showcase happening next weekend. Tickets are available. Go to the Utah website or deltacenter.com in order to find your tickets. Runnin' Utes coming off a loss, 79-72 to Cal. Puts them at 6-3 on the season. We'll get into all of it with Coach Jensen here in a second. Man, it's great to have so much to talk about on the show, but we're an hour into a signing day show, and I haven't mentioned any of the guys who've actually signed so far with the University of Utah. I'll start with the cream of the crop here, the top of the class for Utah, and really one of the top players nationally. Kelvin Obot officially signed, all right? 5-star on the 24/7 composite. Rivals and On3 have him as the number 3 player in the nation. He is coached by Jordan Gross in high school, and Kelvin Obot is officially a Ute. We'll get to the rest of the class at some point on the show today. At least I'll try to, but I'm bad at my job, so who knows. Alex Jensen, kind enough to give us a few minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday. Coach, welcome to the show again. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Your Utes are sitting at 6-3. Is this kind of where you anticipated you would be? Maybe not from a wins-loss standpoint, but from a team chemistry, a development, a cohesiveness standpoint?
You know, I really didn't. Being the first year, having a new staff and team, I don't know if I really had expectations where I'd be right now. But no, I think we've made pretty good progress. Kind of disappointing with the setback last night. Not so much that we lost, but I think we took a kind of a step back in doing what we're trying to do. I guess like from building what we're trying to do. But yeah, I know I'm happy with some things. I think individually and collectively we've become better. But yeah, I don't know exactly. It is somewhat, even though it was 15 years ago I was in college, it's still somewhat new, and we're all getting a feel for the landscape and what it takes. And yeah, no, a lot of work to be done. I'll put it that way, Sean.
When you talk about it, when you reference that, you know, the landscape being so different, and we've discussed it in our previous conversations, how, you know, transfer portal and the NIL stuff and all this. But are there other differences that the average fan or myself as a radio host fail to appreciate when it comes to how different college basketball is now than it was last time you were coaching in it?
Yeah. You know, I think last time I was coaching in it, and even when I played, there was, you know, you had different styles. You know, like the Big East was the tall, defensive, physical league. The Pac-10 was the kind of the up-tempo. ACC was talent. You had the Princeton offense, the dribble drive offense, the Wisconsin swing. I don't think there's as many different styles as there used to be. I think everybody kind of does similar things with a few outliers. But no, the portal. I think that the thing about the portal, like again, me, my staff, like we're learning it, but I think even people that are here are learning it. It's constantly evolving. And, you know, there's more questions about where it's going than answers. And, no, I think, you know, we're working on finding our niche and, you know, how to succeed with that, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Because I think we want players, you know, I don't want to try to get as much money as I can and outbid everybody on players, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but part of it, right, is you got to make sure that you're giving people their correct value, that you're getting the correct value out of players if you are compensating those players. And obviously you have a lot of experience in pro basketball, which now college basketball at this level is pro basketball. I don't even know, I don't know if we would call it AAA or if it's better than AAA, but when that is part of the conversation, does it change things and you'd have to educate me on this as well, like my impression is that if you're in the NBA and you're making, $50 million a year, like they're going to put you're going to play in a lot of minutes, even if you're slumping, even if you're not playing well, because, the team's invested in you and they're invested in you probably for good reason. Does that dynamic exist in college basketball right now?
Oh, yeah. No, I think it definitely does exist. You'll see teams that have high payrolls, and they'll have to, it's an NBA thing, and it's real. You have to keep, high-paid players late in the game in blowouts to get their numbers. And, yeah, and there's also, if you're going to pay a kid an X amount of dollars to come play, yeah, you kind of have to play him. But, yeah, no, it's interesting because it is becoming a professional, and hopefully there'll be more progress. But it's like the NBA without any rules. if that makes sense.
Yeah, no salary cap, no collective bargaining, just a wild, wild west.
Yeah, yep. And there's more gray areas, and if you have a good lawyer, you can probably win. So, but yeah, then and hopefully that the powers that be can get ahead of it, because I think there's probably more than a few little fixes that could really, I think, really make it better. But again, it's still in the infancy of the whole, NIL and pay for play, and we're still trying to maintain an amateurism part of it, which is just not, sensical. It's just, because it's professional, and I think the sooner the organization and the system gets to that, then the better off we'll be.
Are the guys you're coaching now more professional about their approach to, practice, workouts, diet than you were when you were a college basketball player at the University of Utah?
Well, the difference is we can provide a lot of that stuff with them. We can provide them with food and a lot of things like that. I think, that there's more resources available to them. But, it's the same thing in the NBA. It takes a lot of players. It takes them, I tell our guys all the time, it takes, a year or two or more to get in a routine and how you take care of yourself. And, and I go back to the great Ed Reed and his quote, on the field's easy, it's off the field. Like, you got to compete off the field. And you have to be smart about that. And I think, our guys, they're young, but, it's a learning process, and I think they become better at it. But, what you do 2 nights before a game will, definitely affect how you play 2 nights later. So, it's a maturity level like that we're going through with our guys on and off the court, and we've become better at it. And, routine is, I try to share stories of NBA players I've been around who avoid injury and are consistent, and they're really, nothing gets away with their recovery or workout routine.
How much variation is there on your own roster right now, currently, with how you and your assistants have to successfully coach a guy versus his own teammates? Because I imagine you're probably recruiting and trying to get people that are going to respond to your overall atmosphere, your overall team culture. But, everyone is an individual, and you got to get the individuality to go away to serve the team in some ways. But is there a lot of variation between, I'm just using examples, I'm not suggesting anything, but like a Terrence Brown versus a Keanu Dawes versus like a Josh Hayes? Are those guys all relatively similar in feedback and receptiveness to coaching, et cetera, or do you have to cater things on an individual level in a way that maybe didn't used to exist in basketball?
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, especially with the first year and everybody's new. Like, I think there's a level where, there's certain things you coach everybody the same, but all 3 of the guys you mentioned, everybody on our roster has different personalities. So there's a different way to coach them. And it's funny. I tell them when I played on the good teams at Utah, or I've coached good teams, I try to tell them this, that, any good team, the coaches do more of the talking, right? Like on the court, and a lot of our guys, that's not their personality necessarily, but it's better for a teammate to go up to his teammate and tell him he missed a block out instead of me yelling at him. Like that always has been better, I think, in the history of basketball. And just like I talked about a maturity level of, it's kind of, I think right now it's taught somewhere between, it happens with a lot of rookies and second and third year players in the NBA too. It's like it's a job. Like there's money and it's a job, and you owe it to, most importantly yourself, and to, the teammates and our group that's in the locker room, and also the fans and the people to, you're playing for them, not just for yourself, if that makes. And, and it's not a malicious thing. It's just, I think that's been a big change and a transformation that people have to go through. Can
you coach that into guys? Like, if you don't have a team that has natural personalities that emerge, that are the ones that are, coach on the court sort of thing, can you say, hey, this is going to be your job. You're the most vocal of a non-vocal group, so I'm going to need you to take some of this responsibility and to internalize this a little bit. Is that something you can coach into players?
You know what? I think you can help with it. I think it's something that we look for, players and they have to have some of it. You're not going to completely change a guy. I mean, I tell them all the time, you have to, you can be the nicest person you want off the court, but once you cross that line, there has to be a transformation of sorts, right? Like it's competitive, it's war, it's battle, and I think it's something you try to encourage and you get the most out of. It's easier for some guys than others, but it's not the easiest thing to do for some guys.
Alex Jensen is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Salt Lake Showcase is coming up next Saturday, December 13th at the Delta Center. Runnin' Utes versus Mississippi State. The game is not included on your season ticket package, so tickets are available at utahutes.com, or you can go to SeatGeek. We are also giving away a 4-pack of tickets every day this week right here on the Sean O'Connell Show, so make sure you're tuned in every single day. Let's talk about the coming slate, Coach. I know you take it a game at a time. It's Cal Baptist, and then it is the Salt Lake Showcase, which is, of course, a high-exposure opportunity for your team. What are we expecting against Cal Baptist first?
I would say this first off, I've watched Cal Baptist. They have a tough road trip. I think they play BYU here, but they are good. They're well coached, and they were in. They played a lot of good teams close. A couple games they should have won, but they are a good team, so we have to be ready. But no, it is a good stretch. We get, we have today off, so we get a couple days before them, and then we have a week before Mississippi State, which I think it's a triple header, right, at the Delta Center, which I think is a great event for fans and for our guys to play there because it's close. But no, we really honestly, your question earlier about this is where I hope to have been. You know what? We were lucky to win a game or two, and then there was games like last night. I think we were very capable of winning that we kind of beat ourselves. So, but no, I'm looking forward to our guys bouncing back against Cal Baptist like we did against Ole Miss, and then I'm really looking forward to the week of practice before Mississippi State.
Have you been able to kind of keep one half eye on how the Big 12 is shaping up? Because, of course, that's the conference you're going to be playing in once we get into the new year, which can't believe it's almost 2026 already. And obviously you hit the ground running with Arizona right off the top there. So have you been able to keep any attention on that?
I'm trying not to. But, no, actually I am, because the Big 12, there's not a better – you could easily make an argument that it's the best basketball league. a lot of well-funded programs, a lot of support, some great coaches that have been there for a long time, and it's a beast, and that's what I've kind of the message I try to send to our guys. We've had some early success, but like it can't be enough. I tell them that can't be enough. It's only going to get harder, and like you said, it begins with Arizona, and they're playing really well. But it's actually been a fun thing for me because the college game's changed, and I get to learn it, and I wish I had more time just to sit down and watch more of the Big 12 teams, because there's some fun teams to watch, because it's a physical big league, and there's a lot of established coaches and programs that have been good for a long time.
What's the best game your team has played so far this year? The most complete, I'm proud of that performance from my guys type win?
It's a good question because, beginning of the year, we kind of started off slow and we were losing the rebounding battle. I'd say Sam Houston at home was the game I feel like we came out from the beginning and executed the game plan. And we had a few lulls, but I think that was the most complete game we put together. Ole Miss was actually probably a good game. We had a great first half, had about a bad 10, 15-minute stretch, fortunate enough to find a way to win. That'd probably be the second one. But I think Sam Houston, who's a good, solid team, that was the one, I think, from the beginning to end, where I think we had we were consistent throughout most of the game.
You just said you wish you had more time to watch basketball, and I know that how you watch basketball is probably a lot different than how the average fan watches basketball, but is there value in like finding the time to tune into the NBA right now to absorb some of that, whatever changes may or may not be happening you spend a lot of time there, so I don't know if watching games is going to give you anything novel, but is there value for you to the point you actually do make time to watch NBA basketball or even other college basketball that isn't a scout?
It's interesting because what I'm learning is the college game is so different from the NBA, and I think as time goes on, that's kind of, I'm still in that transformation because I still have a lot of good friends that coach in the NBA. So you like to watch a game, but it is basketball and it obviously helps, but I think there's more value for me because I'm, again, learning it is watching more college and, even finding time to watch some European games just to get ideas. And that's how you learn. Just like we watch we'll watch film with our guys, and, if you want to be good, you've got to watch the film. But yeah, no, that's a transformation where I think I'm watching less. It's hard to follow both leagues, the NBA and college. So definitely the NBA is going down, and unless I have a good friend that's there playing in the NBA and I'm home and have time. But yeah, definitely wish I had more time to watch college.
Has Kyle Whittingham sent any insight on his future plans in the top secret group text thread that only Utah athletics head coaches are on? It's like you and him and Gavin and Beth Lanier and just the head coaches. Has he told you if he's retiring or not?
No. I've had a few conversations with him. I knew Kyle a little bit when I was here, and what he's done is amazing, and he's deserved the right to do whatever he wants in that respect. And I think like a lot of fans, I would love to see him back and continue what he's done for decades here. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have any insight on that. And you know what? And I'm looking forward to when the season's over for him, whether he comes back or not, picking his brain on a few things.
I obviously was making a joke, but is there a head coaches group text thread where you guys send each other funny memes and stuff?
No, I don't think there is. 'Cause I think once you get into the season, there's there's enough text, and I'm not great with my phone either. There's enough text threads just with. I can only imagine Kyle's text threads with his offenses deep, like with his recruiters. Like I couldn't imagine that beast, but I know my staff, we have 3 or 4 of them, and I have a hard time keeping up with it.
Well, I'm going to make a request that you start a text thread that is just Utah Athletics head coaches, and then next time we talk, we'll see how that's going. All right?
Okay.
Coach,
I will.
Good luck this weekend, and obviously, if we don't chat before then, against Mississippi State for the Salt Lake Showcase. Appreciate you giving us some time today.
Hey, no problem. My pleasure, Sean. Have a good day. Thank you.
Alex Jensen, Utah men's basketball head coach. Coach's show tonight at 6. So lots going on for Utah men's basketball. Utah Mississippi State next Saturday, December 13th at the Delta Center. A game that is not included on your season ticket package, but tickets are available at utahutes.com and at SeatGeek. We will be giving away a 4-pack of tickets right here on the Sean O'Connell Show every day this week. And look, I know you're going to be watching conference championship games in the college football world, but you can stream those on your phone while you're at the Huntsman Center watching college basketball. One of the things that you heard him mention several times in that interview, and that we are seeing the results of more in the college football world than anything else right now, teams that get support, fan attendance, the revenue associated with fan attendance, get better recruits yield better results. Utah basketball is building, and the biggest part of that is obviously the athletic department and obviously Alex Jensen and the players, but we as fans, observers, people invested in the success of Utah basketball and Utah athletics have a small role to play by showing up when you don't have a scheduling conflict. Get out there. Tickets are affordable, right? It's an easy enough ask to get up there and watch when you don't have, a Utah football team in the conference championship game, unfortunately. Big thanks to Alex Jensen for giving us time today. SeatGeek.com and UtahUtes.com for the Salt Lake Showcase Utah versus Mississippi State tickets at the Delta Center. Also a reminder, I warned you. I told you for weeks that this was coming. This wild swing in temperature and the variations of the Utah weather as winter has set in. You need windows that are energy efficient, that are new, hopefully that are aesthetically pleasing, that are keeping your energy costs down, and that you can rely on now that the crazy weather is here and the condensation and the excessive cold and the ice sheeting and all that kind of stuff. Advanced Window Products has you covered, a local company run by the Ute football legend, Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, his partner, a trustworthy company that services lifetime warranties right here locally, sales, service, installation, all done in Salt Lake City, no middleman to mark up the price or to cause you problems if there is somehow a problem down the line and you have an issue with your windows and there's a little condensation between the panes or something goes wrong or a window gets broken. You are covered, and you don't have to chase down the right phone number and the different representative in order to get that warranty coverage because they do it right here in the heart of Salt Lake City. If you drive up and down I-15, you're going right past the office and the factory all the time. 801-850-9100, $2,500 off 10 windows or more from a company you can trust. Get on the schedule right now. The snow is already here. All right, the installation process from the time you start the quote until you actually have those new windows in your house is probably going to be 6 to 8 weeks. But another thing about Advanced Windows and the fact that they handle everything locally, the job itself, they're going to minimize the time. It'll be in and out done in 24 to 48 hours, so you're not going to be sitting there with tarps up on your windows. You're not going to be taping things off to try to keep the cold air out when you're doing an installation in the winter. They're going to get you taken care of. They're going to do it the right way. And you're going to tell them OC sent you when you call 801-850-9100 or advancedwindows.com. Trevor Riley, he's going to have some thoughts on the college football playoff rankings and, of course, on Kalani Sitake's big extension down at BYU and what that means for Utah football. We'll discuss with the Utah football legend next on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on a Wednesday. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season. They need blankets, coats, shoes, hats, gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth. Help others find their way home, the road home, this holiday season. Trevor Riley is here in studio with us. I promise you he's going to have some thoughts on a wild weekend and the aftermath in college football. Trevor Riley, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the big news that affected the state of Utah. I said on Sunday nights, man, these next 24 to however many hours are in 7 days, it's going to be a massively, massively important week for college football in the state of Utah. And starting with the pursuit by Penn State of BYU head coach Kalani Sitake, a guy that you know incredibly well. And he's staying at BYU. BYU ultimately staves off not one but two big financial pushes from Penn State, keeps Kalani home, and presumably that means they stay the course. They continue to build momentum. The assistants that have been so good on his staff have no reason to leave, all that stuff. It was a big, big win for BYU to keep Kalani, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, he's getting consideration for the best job available, right? Is there a better job available right now than Penn State?
No, not that the LSU job could be called better than Penn State, but that job was gone, given to Lane Kiffin. So
yeah, that's right. So that's a lot of respect there, okay? And that's going to hold some weight if he continues to win, because the next job he probably wants is out west, which is SC. Okay, private institution to private institution. Not only that, Kalani's a West Coast guy. He went to school in Missouri, St. Louis. I met some of his high school homies one time when the Cardinals were winning the World Series, right? We're watching it Friday before the game. And he's been able to reach the whole country. They're recruiting from everywhere, right? They'll take kids from anywhere. And so I think him knowing his Hawaii and his Tongan roots and L.A., his father, and that's the job, right? I'm not wishing that upon anyone, but if you're going to leave BYU, why would you want to go to Penn State?
Yeah, it's funny because even people in the Penn State circles are like, well, we think he's a great coach, but is this the right fit?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have ties that we're aware of, at least, to that region of the country. And as much as you can adjust, like, they're not going to give you a lot of time to adjust at a place like Penn State.
No.
To build recruiting connections and momentum. And a lot of that is expedited and fixed by something that we talk about every single week when you join us, by the finances. And obviously Penn State's got that pretty well taken care of. But the point I made for 2 straight days was, so does BYU. BYU has no excuse to not step up to the plate financially. Historically, they have underpaid coaches, and that is no longer the case with their basketball program or their football program if the reporting is to be believed, and there's no reason not to believe it. These guys work hard to source things the right way. Kalani is now a top 3 paid coach. I think he might, depending on – I think Dion makes more average annual value, but who knows how long that lasts. But, I mean, he's effectively the highest paid coach in the Big 12 now.
And deservedly so. You win 11 games twice in a row. I mean, before we came on air, we were talking about Mike Leach.
Yeah.
Okay, remember that, what was it, 2008 season where they win 11 games? They didn't win. They tied the Big 12. They lose to Oklahoma after they beat Texas with that Crabtree play, right? And then he doesn't get an extension from the AD, okay? They still owe him some money down there. He went to his grave with that. Yeah. We need to look into that, by the way. But that's how serious it is and how tough it is to work at a public institution, right? They're cutthroat. You're working against the U.S. government, dude. Hard to beat the U.S. government.
Sure.
So Kalani, when I say private institution, key on that, right? It's much easier to do business with a king than it is a democracy.
Sure.
And when you're dealing with the church, right, the honorable, the great prophet, Dallin H. Oaks, is in charge of BYU at the end of the day. He can directly negotiate with Kalani. And that carries a lot of weight. SC is kind of that way.
It was really interesting when we were talking about this over the course of the couple days leading up to it, and you knew that the Penn State offer was there, and it was incredibly lucrative. And obviously that's a program with a lot of history, a nationally relevant program, and BYU has been that, and in these last couple of years has reemerged as that. I mean, they're number 11 today in the college football playoff rankings. I think the wrong message is being sent by the committee to BYU, but that's a conversation we'll get to here in a second. But what we're talking about, what BYU's up against there. And my assertion was the whole time is that it doesn't matter because Kalani Sitake is a BYU dude. He would like to be a lifer here. You just have to show him the proper amount of respect. And the way that you do that in a professional setting now is you give him resources for himself, obviously, but also for his assistant staff, which by its own admission, BYU has underpaid. And I said on the airwaves, they have access to funds nobody else has access to. They have influence that nobody else has. And it's really interesting the way that people hate to hear you say that, like you're insulting the church or you're insulting the culture. Yep. And it's not, right? And by the way, like I got a grip of text messages saying, like, you really think that the quorum or the 12 or that the president gives a rip about BYU football? And I said
Public
yes.
image? Are you kidding me?
And I said yes. I think he and they do.
I assume. I don't want to. I assume.
I think they do because of the missionary tool that BYU football is, and that is where Kalani Sitake is even more irreplaceable. I think he's a great football coach, but you look at even Bronco Mendenhall was a great football coach at BYU. Bronco Mendenhall didn't make people love BYU. Bronco Mendenhall didn't make people like, hey, you know what? These guys are actually kind of cool. Like, look how loose he is. Look how he says the right thing every time. Look how he dances his way out onto the field. Look how likable and lovable and put your money where your mouth actually is. Like, Kalani is so consistent as a good human being and a great football coach, and I will send my kid to play there.
Yep.
And I'm not –
I love that.
Bronco's a great football coach. I think he's going to do great things at Utah State. He's already improving things up there. But Bronco was never that, where you looked at BYU and there was a cool factor to it, and there was like hey, you know what? Maybe I was all wrong about these Mormons. He never did that. He never bridged that gap. Kalani does.
Yep.
And I know that the brethren care at least about that. They might not care about wins and losses the way that the rest of the sports fans do, but they at least care about that. All the more reason why getting this extension was absolutely critical, and credit to BYU for doing it. It looked like for a minute maybe they were going to have some resistance from within and they weren't going to get it done. Ultimately, they do the right thing.
And I think at the end of the day, you talk about eras, okay? What we're seeing here is a transition of eras. We talked about Mendenhall. My brother played for Mendenhall. He was good for my brother, okay? It's good for a lot of people, right?
Sure.
The world is changing now. You're talking about an era before the internet, really, right? Kalani he's made for the internet.
Sure.
He's a big teddy bear, okay? Big brown teddy bear, okay? Yeah. Down in New Orleans, they asked him when he gets in the elevator, hey, your family's pretty cute for mixed people, okay? He's like, well, what does that mean, okay? This is a guy that doesn't even care, dude. He doesn't care. He knows a few things in life, right? He knows where we came from, why we're here, where we're going. He's a Mormon, to your point. He's a solid LDS person.
Sure.
Who wants to be solid. It's not perfect. Heavens, none of us are. But that reverberates, right? And so the internet is making him into a star of such. That's why I think SC, that would be the job, because we need the missionary work out there, okay? That could be a thing. You export. Let's export this. Let's head to the Americas type deal. And so Kalani's going to have all the cards as long as he keeps winning. And you get more money, Sean. You keep winning in pro sports. That's how it goes.
And look, whether he was only using the Penn State interest as leverage to get that money, sounds like he got it, and good for him. We know I think I know how it would have affected the University of Utah, and we are a Utah station, if Kalani goes, right? Suddenly, the talent pool, both in coaching and in players at BYU, gets diluted.
Yeah.
Jay Hill probably elevates. Does Gary Anderson go? Does he stay? Chad Kaha'a, like all these guys, like they make a decision. Do I follow Kalani? Do I stay in Utah? Aaron Roderick, same thing. What happens? Is there now a vacancy down there for Jason Beck? Does that affect Utah? Now, they stay the course in Provo, right? How does that affect Utah in your mind?
I think if y'all haven't figured it out yet, Ron McBride has a freaking fraternity of coaches, okay? We all take care of each other around here, right? We've done it for years. That's why no one ever leaves, right? As long as we stay loyal and true, we don't break that trust, right? Which Penn State had a problem with that, right? That they broke that trust. They were there too long. They had a wolf in the hen house, right? So that's why it's been able to go along. And not that it's been perfect by any means, right? But you talk about just taking care of each other and trying to send the right message. We want to raise these young men properly. We want to win, but at the end of the day, it's fraternal. Okay, we shake hands. We go to each other's kids. It's a real brotherhood, man. Those commercials with Lavelle and Ron, right? They're happening now in real life, right? Our kids are all on the same teams. We hang out together. I was just at an NFLPA event last night. It's a mixture of everybody. So it's becoming more of a, pro versus pro, right? It's less of a, in my opinion, the Holy War is going to get better as the teams get better. That's why I'm worried about what you said earlier. If Utah's finances go down, OC, which right now I'm sounding the alert, we need money, okay? In the worst way, guys. We got a portal closer in January 2nd opening, but that's when it's really over. The contracts are really getting set. So Kalani not only got more money probably in his pocket, but he probably got a lot more commitment, which I know you've talked about on the show, on the NIL third-party menu. Remember, This is third-party money, nothing to do with deficits. Just like the government, it's going to open. Even if we have a deficit, the game is going to get played no matter what the deficit. They're going to get their money for the TV. It's $20 million. That's the max.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here is a monopoly move. You ever play Hold'em? You go all in and you just start muscling pots.
Oh, yeah.
They're muscling Utah. They are muscling us, dude, with these pots, bro. And it's going to get bad because we're losing the in-state battle. Every year we're losing it, and now we're losing to them. And that's the lifeblood of the state. Whoever wins the in-state battle, that's who usually wins the games.
I was texting back and forth with one of my buddies last night he's deeply invested in the rivalry because anyone who grew up here probably is on one side or the other. And, today's signing day, and you can read some tea leaves on right now BYU's got, I think, the 20th ranked class. Utah's like 35, 37, depending on which service you look at. And I've never paid attention to those numbers because Utah's a development program, and BYU's beat Utah in plenty of those years, and it doesn't translate to success necessarily in the game itself.
Yeah.
But now there's enough similarities on the way these staffs conduct things. BYU football is Utah football.
Yeah, look at the staff, dude. Kyle trained all of them. Heavens, or Gary, Gary or Ron. That's the line. Those three guys trained all those guys.
So now I look at it and I say, well, if BYU's getting raw talent and they're going to develop it at a very similar clip that Utah has been proven to do for the last few years, and it's a signing day, and these are 17 or 18-year-old kids that are signing on the dotted line, and it's not a 4-year commitment like it was for you. It's a 1-year commitment, maybe a 2-year commitment. We just had Devin Dampier in here saying basically that, like, yeah, you're potentially you're signing for what the best situation for you right now, and you're looking for something. If open opens up to you, you're looking for something better later on. These kids are the ultimate sufferers of recency bias.
Yeah.
And it has now been 5 years since Utah beat BYU on the football field. And that is something that matters a lot to these young kids. It doesn't matter as much as the money, like to your point, but it's something that matters. And so winning the in-state recruit battle, like you said, translates to success on the field, and that perpetuates itself. That now is so tied to finance and the recency bias that I guess I never hoped for it to really to go through, but there was a glimmer of hope if Kalani was going to interrupt the chain by leaving.
Yeah.
That it was like, all right, well, this opens a window for Morgan or for Kyle if he stays, that now you could say, aha, nah, look, he's gone. He's going to you don't want to go to Pennsylvania. You ever been to Beaver County? It's a wasteland.
I've driven through. Didn't stop. Okay. Saw it from a ways. It took a wave. Okay.
Hey, the Big 12 conference gets called the truck stop town. That Beaver County, Pennsylvania is actual truck stop.
It is. There's
world.
nothing on the sides of the roads. It's like, okay, take a left here and go all the way down there.
Yeah.
I used to drive to Strongsville to see my brother in Cleveland. I was playing for the Jets. I used to go right through that area.
So yes, the NIL thing matters we talk about it every single week, but the consistency thing that has been such a staple for the University of Utah now is something that BYU also gets to tout. And this rivalry ratchets up in its intensity on every level because of it, in my opinion.
Well, I'm here to propose a deal. Okay, we need the brethren, meaning the BYU boys. They should bail us out. They should buy our team. We should hedge. Okay, we don't want this.
They're not going to do that.
But listen to what I'm saying here. We don't want this thing to get out of hand. Why would we want the rivalry to die? It's good for everybody. We like this. And if there's money to be made, right, which there is in pro sports, that's why they're buying BYU, I'd hedge, or I'd bring some other guys. It happens all the time. You think Tom Brady cares about the dang Raiders? No, he bought the Raiders because it was available.
Yeah.
And that's a reality now when you're talking about pro sports. We have to graduate our thinking, right, a little bit, right? Doesn't mean it has to die. Arsenal, Manchester still play. Before they were amateur clubs before this thing started, okay? They still play and get after it. I think that we have to just take a little different approach here now. We don't want this thing to get out of hand, bro. It's not good for anybody, right? You want to squeeze somebody out, right? Then there's no game to play. Oh, you killed the game, right? You want to beat us up every year. And reality is we have to talk like this because we're in this situation. It sounds pathetic. Think about what I'm saying here. We're out of money, Sean. And BYU just got richer. What are you going to do? But what are we going to do about it? I think we should offer up the terms. Anybody, come on to the table.
They're not selling the team.
Well, third-party money is buying the team, as we know from the tech billionaire. Okay,
third-party money
Texas
is,
tech billionaire.
but that's where the ROI thing. This is where the analogy crumbles because the ROI thing doesn't exist in college sports right now.
Oh, branding always helps. You get licensing agreements. Okay, licensing agreements are conducted with the school. You could cut those easily.
Whoever cut the check for Devin Dampier to come to the University of Utah for whatever it is, $1.1 million. I don't know what he's making. I should have asked him when he came here today. They didn't make $1 million off of it.
No, you don't know that. Okay, so that's where we know this. Some of these guys are worth it. All right, if you bet on a Heisman winner, which I've done, by the way, I've done it financially 3 times. It is a real thing.
Bet on who's going to win the Heisman?
I bet on a Heisman Trophy winner who won the Heisman.
All right.
So that means I know I'm listening to what I'm saying here. That carries some clout now. Those guys are on commercials, and that's a resume thing. In addition to the fact when you're on those levels, OC, which you're now doing that, you've been to the Middle East, those rooms are different, okay? And when you bring talent around there, what's that worth? I mean, whatever at that level, the money is whatever, right? The talent is something to these people, and that is what you're buying here. You're buying an immense amount of talent that you can negotiate with. And if we see what happens here with tech, what if this happens? Right, that gives you access to an entire school. If this thing works, this billionaire now is going to have a key to that school, man. What's that worth? There's all kinds of things that can be fed off of winning, in my humble opinion.
For he sold his company, so like he's not looking to recoup his donations.
No, he's getting value. Remember, money's for. I always say this: money's for those. Okay. And that's how it is for these guys, right? You talk about it's a game now who can give away the most. You're talking about somebody who has $1 trillion package, John. Musk has $1 trillion package that was it's okayed. This is a different world now. So now, as we're hearing about AI and all this, and not to go too far, the machines, right? We're going to see this thing transition now into a more machine-like. It's going to be more machine-like, dude.
Take me back to your signing day, and what you're doing, how you're feeling, the whole situation.
Okay, so 2 of them, okay? First signing day, high school, Leach. We talked about Leach, right?
Yeah.
I was a Texas Tech signee from California, high school, not a JC, not really a thing at that time. This was 2006. So it was kind of a very unique thing. Even my own county didn't really know how to cover it. It wasn't a big story because there's no local ties, right?
Yeah.
San Diego. So I was just kind of with my family, and it was a big deal in my town. We only had 1 or 2 guys ever go D1. We started in 98, so I signed this thing. I faxed it over, and it was just a weird deal because
that's a big enough difference right there. The fax machine.
Yeah, we
no
faxed
longer,
it over. There you go. It was just back then, right? And it's not that long ago, but it was different, man. You celebrated small. There was no posting. There was no posting, so it was a very intimate thing. Fun. And the second time after my mission, I showed up in a suit with Coach Witt after my mission. I said, "Yo, what are we doing, dude?"
You showed up in a suit?
Yeah, I said, "I'm here to do some business." My dad told me, my dad's like, "Yo, just show up in a suit and tell him you're serious, okay, so we can get this thing over with." I was bouncing around different schools, and that was cool. He's just like, "Okay, here's the deal, A, B, C, D," and then I went up and talked to Rudy, and it was done.
That's interesting.
That was in 2009.
Now, did you feel like you'd made it? Signing it because that was
Big
the
12,
pinnacle.
dude. Heck yeah, man! I felt big time, man.
That was the pinnacle back then.
Yeah, it was. Dude.
That was you were not like. Now these guys are like, well, I'm making $1 million and this kid over here is making $2 million. You were signing with your school's being paid for. That was like the ultimate payoff for a high school athlete. Did you feel like you'd made it?
Yeah, dude. I wore that Letterman's jacket. I had my logo of the Red Raiders on the back. I was really rocking, dude. I was getting down with Mike Leach's crew, dude. I liked the way he operated as I look at the screen with the Raiders, right? The Pirate. So that was my first touch into college sports, dude. I rushed the field at the Insight Bowl in 06.
Wow.
Okay, 30-point, comeback as a signee. I was going on my mission, so I gray shirted. I was working in the yard with Albert Torres, this diesel, getting ready for my mission. And then we went to the game in Phoenix. They came back from 30-something down and win the game, dude. So I hopped the fence. And Leach is like, what the heck are you doing here? Dude, I told this story before. And so I was all about that. Leach was a cowboy from Cody, right? I was not really say cowboy, but I was from a cowboy town, Valley Center in California, settlement town near the Indians. And yeah, it was just, I was all about that, dude. I was like, this is going to be fun. I was excited, dude.
Well, we're glad you ended up at the University of Utah because that was fun too.
Yeah, Under Armour school, I guess.
Don't hate on Under Armour.
Well, their cleats were average, right?
Even though I do.
I did turn on Nike in the league. I signed a deal with Nike, and then I just wore Under Armours anyway. I didn't care.
Really?
I wore them for a few games, and I told my agent, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Give me an Under Armour deal. I was like, tell Nike I'm not wearing them, dude.
What? Why?
I was a backup. I was like, I didn't like them. They were too thin. I had fat feet. They were made them for Polynesians if they were made for Utah. Utah was a charter school, if I'm not mistaken. I got fat feet. I got size 15s, bro.
Trevor Riley's got, if you're looking for a Christmas present for Trevor Riley, he needs the double E or the triple E wide shoe.
Hey, man, I was in Hilo, Hawaii. Okay, I went to the DI or whatever it is, the thrift store to get some shoes, and they got big diabetics there, okay? I stumbled upon a pair of 15 black New Balances that were 4D or it's 4E, double E or something.
Yeah,
I slid right into those puppies like sandals, man. Okay? It's hitting the trail, dude, on some diabetic shoes, dude.
Oh, that's Trevor Riley. Always good to see you, sir.
Shout out to Rick Curtis.
Thanks for coming in.
Scott Kimball, my family diabetics, man. Drink some water.
Sean O'Connell Show. We'll get back on the rails on ESPN 700, 92 on FM. Diabetic feet. Bro, we had a guy. Hour number 3 begins here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Big thanks to Trevor Riley for coming in. Now we welcome Adrian Denny, brought to you by Aladdin Industries and Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck between the pipes with our Mammoth Hockey Insider. Adrian, welcome back. How are you?
What's up, OC? How's it going, man?
It's going great. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was awesome. Love Thanksgiving. It's just a great day, right? It's a a day off. You sleep in, you wake up, you watch football. You go back a couple times for seconds and thirds, and then seconds and thirds on desserts, and then it's time for a nap, and then there's more football, and it's one of my favorite days of the year.
You quadruple your calorie intake for a week in 1 or 2 days, and you're just like, that was bad, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's always great.
All right, let's talk a little Mammoth hockey, shall we? This team is hard for me to figure out right now. It's been 4 in a row now that they have lost. We'll get to that part of it here in just a second, but I don't know the proper way to do justice to something that it's a life story that we know about because of sports. But, the Thanksgiving holiday that means so much to everyone is now going to have a totally different meaning for Clayton Keller's family. And this is a guy who's an important part of the growing hockey community in the state of Utah, and he's your team captain, and he's a fan favorite. And everything I know about him seems like he's the right kind of guy to buy the sweater for and have your kids wear. It just seems great. And, he experienced just an unspeakable tragedy with the unexpected passing of his father. And the way that he chose to deal with it was to play hockey through it. And good for him if that's the way you want to do it. But just how do you process and how is the team processing something so personal, so much more meaningful than hockey happening for not just a rank and file player, although that would matter too, but it's your team captain.
Yeah, it was a lot. Friday is when head coach Andre Cherney told us the news, and they had found out the night before, and Clayton wanted to play, as you said, and he's such a leader of this team, and he's so loved by this team, and we've done so many stories about how Clayton's family has, been part of his journey from, watching high school hockey as a little kid to putting on skates, to his grandpa taking him to practice every day after school, to his dad making their unfinished basement, a floor hockey rink and a shooting area. And so knowing all that and knowing how close Clayton was with his family, and it was so sad, and he's the guy you'd want your kid to wear his jersey, and he's that guy in the locker room, and the team took it hard, and they wanted to play for Clayton and his dad, and you're in his hometown 24 hours later playing the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brought in another part of it, and the stars named Clayton number 1 star of the game on Friday, and on Saturday they did a great, tribute to Brian Keller, where Clayton had watched so many games with his dad, and you could tell that the Mammoth had a lot weighing on their shoulders over the weekend. Execution in St. Louis, it was just off, and you're hoping that they can go out and make it a great story. And there was a lot going on, and there were guys that were sick, and so that added another component to it. And Barrett Hayton was a game time decision. Saturday, didn't play Friday, and so Kevin Rooney made his season debut for the Mammoth, and then Logan Cooley takes that knee-to-knee hit from Alexei Toropchenko when you're down 1-0 in the third period Saturday, so he's not on the power play. You have a 5-minute power play, and it's just teams then thinking about him, because you're like, oh no, was that a season-ending injury there? Fortunately, it wasn't. He was back playing again on Monday. But yeah, it was a lot to process for the group, and I felt after the game on Saturday like you can't judge this team for that weekend. And they lost a couple games by a goal. And then Monday, turn the page. You're in California, palm trees. There's marine layer, but you'll ultimately see the sun in the Silicon Valley. And we'd heard energy was high at practice, and they were excited, and you really felt a good vibe is what we got from our team on the ground in San Jose, and just could not do some simple things and found themselves down 2-0, 3-1, and then your goaltenders didn't make a couple saves, and that's how it was. But yeah, a lot to process, and he did want to be with the team, and we all deal with things in different ways, and you just never know, how the reaction and how things are going to go when you got all that stuff going on.
The hockey stuff, which is what we're here to talk about. Unfortunately, the team feels like maybe it's trending in a dangerous direction right now when it comes to, the place you want to be with the playoff picture that is still very distant, but yeah, the games in December matter just as much as the games in April for that kind of stuff. So, a lot of the points came early in the season. And right now you got a 4-game losing streak happening. It was a 4-game losing streak separated by 2 wins before that, and then 3 and 2. They're just not gelling and clicking the same way it looked like they were early in the year.
And yesterday in Anaheim couldn't have been a better day for a practice day. And the NHL schedule this year is condensed because of the Olympic break in February, and so everybody's playing every other day with back-to-backs, and everybody has the same thing. Utah's played 16 of their 27 games on the road. So you add that ratio, and then you add that travel time, and you subtract practice time that you would have. It's a little more balanced, right? And Andre Cherney and Bill Armstrong have both said it in the last 36 hours. There's no excuses. This is National Hockey League. We got to go play. We got to go make things happen. I'm watching that game. I'm like, you can't complete a pass. The power play is doing nothing. These guys just need a practice day. They haven't had practice days. You got to practice, right? You've heard it. Legendary comments. We're talking about practice. Yeah, we're talking about practice. They needed a practice day. So just to recharge, and I think in Anaheim's a great day to have a practice day because you walk in the sunshine. Andre Cherney said, yeah, it was a good practice. There was high energy. Guys were in good spirits, but it was good spirits from a business standpoint, right? It wasn't, happy-go-lucky, here we are. Like they were in a business spot. So hopefully that practice that they were able to have, because they haven't had a lot of practices, can hopefully kind of rejuvenate what's been missing. And that's just the simple execution. It's so simple. It's not turning the puck over in the offensive zone. I've never seen so many odd man rushes come back the other way and result in goals because Utah loses the puck in the offensive end. Defensively, they've been great. They don't allow a thing, but you give the puck up 2-3 times a game in your offensive end because you don't do the simple thing. It's cost them. And that's the big thing here, OC, is gosh, they're losing games because of stuff that is just so simple
and controllable.
Yeah, and I think this group, when things are going in the wrong direction, they push harder, and it has resulted in when you push too hard, sometimes things break, and 5 guys on the ice pushing too hard has not results in success. Where if you just stay simple and clear your head and play the game and not the scoreboard and the standings in the second period in a Monday night in San Jose, you'd be in a better spot. So that's the mentality, I think, that's the next step for the Mammoth here.
So when you see teams get into these kind of slumping situations, there's a couple of schools of thought you can delve into. where maybe you say, all right, this is our group. We're going to stay the course, and we're going to play out of the slump or whatever. And then you'll see it in every sport where, all right, let's mix things up just a little bit. You can see experimentation with lines, same roster. In this case, the Mammoth have made what I don't think is an insignificant personnel decision in bringing up Daniil Boot, who we talked about a lot in the preseason, and sending down Dmitry Simashev, who I guess we were maybe a little premature at how much a couple of weeks ago we're just gushing about this kid's raw talent and how polished he looks despite the lack of experience. And so, look, a little bit of a swap out there potentially. What do you think of the reasoning behind it, and, of course, how well it'll work?
I think they need a spark, just something. And, 20 years old, 6'5", he's got the size. He's going to play with Cooley and Gunther, right? He's going straight into the top six. Led the Roadrunners in the AHL and in scoring. But everything I've heard about him, and I've watched him in several games with Tucson too, but with him getting called up, I went to some folks down there and just asked some questions about Daniil, and here's what they told me. He likes to possess the puck in the offensive zone. He's creative. He's not afraid to shoot. He'll shoot from all areas. Some of the goals that I've seen him score this year, he's just got the puck and he shoots it and it goes in. And you're like, I didn't expect that, but that's phenomenal. But he's good along the wall. He's good in wall battles. He's good at recovering pucks in tough areas. And that's everything that he does is what Utah needs. And that's why I was the most excited about him of any of the prospects coming into the season, is the prospects of playing in the NHL, because everything he does, Utah needs. So he's been good down there. Bear said that he's not only been good offensively, but he's been good defensively, but he's got a lot of confidence. He's played with a lot of swagger, and I don't think this team could add enough swagger right now. And
conversely, Simashev will go get, I guess, a little bit of polish at a less stressful environment, a level that maybe isn't quite as demanding for him.
So Bears told us on players that are up for the first time, ask me in a month about them, okay? Yeah. Because it takes a month in the NHL to basically, because you can go out and have a good game, but it's about consistency. It's doing it every night. And we hadn't heard anything after the first month. He's playing really well. And I said to Mike Folta on our podcast, Mammoth Daily, it's like, we haven't heard. Bear, give us the warning. Bear keeps us grounded. Bear adds the asterisks. We haven't heard. Ask me in a month. Well, in this case, it was 6 weeks. And Bear said he started out so well. He was playing simple. And then all of a sudden, he started extending into other areas that were kind of getting him into trouble. And they worked with him on it. They talked to him about it. They were kind of managing his minutes, his game load, especially with all these back-to-backs and every other day, and rotating him and Nick DeSimone back and forth. And I think it just got to the point like, all right, let's hit the reset button here. He can go to the American Hockey League and play lots of minutes, and let's just start it fresh. And it's not uncommon. You want guys when they make the roster to not have to go back. Ideally, you want him to be here 100% of the time. In this case, it's not going to be the case as he's going back there. But as I look at this roster here, Dylan Gunther, Barrett Hayton, and Lawson Krause are all guys who have played extended amounts of time in the NHL and gotten sent to the AHL, which we didn't expect, but they've come back up better for it.
Adrian Denny's our guest here between the pipes on the Sean O'Connell Show. He's our resident Utah Mammoth insider, host of Mammoth Daily. Also brought to you by Aladdin Industries and Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck. You mentioned the Olympic break that will be coming in February, and there's all this concern about the arena, and now the ice surface, I guess, is 3 feet shorter than what they're used to playing on, which, of course, Probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal, except these guys you could blindfold them and they know how to get around an NHL ice sheet. So it might make a big difference to people who live on a rink. What do you make of all this?
The interesting thing is the Olympic standard for ice is 15 feet wider. It's 200 feet by 100 feet. In the NHL in North America, it's 200 feet by 85 feet. So it benefits the skill guys when they play with all of that extra space on those Olympic size rinks. And it's not something you've seen a lot of in international competition, is playing on sheets closer to the NHL standard. I don't think the NHL's, to put it, lightly, thrilled with anything that they've heard coming out of Milan in regards to that facility after their walkthrough last week and hearing some more stuff about it. Sounds like somebody took out a tape measure, and can you imagine how that went? Okay. Hey, can I talk to you about something here? Can I talk? Yeah, sure. What is it?
It's funny. I actually can imagine exactly how that went, because in a different life, I actually spent time building in Africa, but with Italian volunteers, like collaborating with them on a building project. And I can imagine exactly how it went when someone was just like, "Hey, what's this about?" A lot of hand waving, a lot of like incredulity. Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean it's 3 feet too short? I would do no way. Like, I have a small amount of experience in that type of setting with Italians, and it's just like my visualization on what you were just talking about. It's one of those things where there's certainly not a meaningful language barrier when you're talking about things being executed at this level. But there absolutely is a barrier when it comes to just like the cultural sort of importance placed on those finer details.
Yeah.
Like that matters so much in this setting and maybe not so much in Milan.
Yeah, you hear about 4-hour work week or 4-day work weeks and, 8 weeks of vacation in the summer and stuff like that. Little different world than us.
And the little sign on the shop door that stays there for 2.5 hours out of the day, and you're like, "What? Where are you?"
Yeah,
yeah.
In our world, where we throw up a practice facility in a year from the ground up, right?
All right. Tell me how players are reacting to this helmet during warm up thing. It was kind of and we've seen this in other sports. Remember, people remember, and we laugh about it now, when I think it was the Seattle Seahawks decided in like a -10 day in Pittsburgh or something, they all took their shirts off and ran out for warm-ups, flexing and showing how tough they were or whatever. And the NFL was like, please don't get hypothermia before games. What are you morons doing? Yes, your rippling muscles look great, DK Metcalf. We don't want you getting hurt here. For people who didn't know, the Ottawa Senators skated warm-ups without helmets in Las Vegas, I guess just to like reverse the curse that they felt they had in Vegas. And some other teams started doing it, maybe, monkey see, monkey do kind of a situation. And the NHL is like, guys, you have to wear helmets in warm-ups, and they're going to re-emphasize this. How are players reacting?
I think they'll be fine with it. I'm sometimes I've understood over the years, I've picked this up. Players just don't know the rules on a lot of things in terms of game action, in terms of replay situations, in terms of dress code, in terms of wearing helmets during warmups. The rule is anybody who joined the NHL after the 2019-2020 season has to wear helmets during warmups. Everybody else is grandfathered in, doesn't have to. And the San Jose Sharks went out in Vegas on Saturday night and no helmets, the entire team. And if you heard us talk about the Sharks, you know that their entire team is like 19 years old, right? 19, 20, 21. So, of course, nobody on their team's grandfathered except Cody Ferraro.
Yeah.
But, and they asked Will Smith about it after the game, and he's like, yeah, just a Saturday night in Vegas. Just thought we'd take in some of the vibe. So I don't think they knew the rules. But I think a memo and an email and maybe a reminder text. I think everybody will be back in their helmets. It was cool for the Mammoth on Hockey Fights Cancer Night back a couple Saturdays ago against the Rangers. Nate Schmidt, who's been in the NHL longer than 2019, 2020, went out and took warm-ups in a Hockey Fights Cancer backwards baseball hat. It looked pretty
cool.
Sweet. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, and obviously this is a precautionary thing. It's not like injuries, and especially head injuries in warm-ups, are a massive, massive concern for the NHL. But the fact that it became a story is interesting because, like you said, the rules are not even the same for everyone in the league because they grandfathered in the visor thing first, and now the helmets during warm-ups also.
Yeah, just like wearing a seatbelt. Back people that grew up in the 60s.
When the cars didn't even have seatbelts in them?
Yeah,
yes.
but now that you've got seatbelts in cars, you should probably put on your seatbelt.
I'll say this, as a parent, every once in a while, like, the Instagram algorithm will spit, like, parental things at me, and nothing makes me pucker more than when you see the contraptions that existed for cars, like driving with kids in cars, driving with babies in cars for like my parents' generation, bassinets that you put in the back window of the car where you're just like, they're behind the headrest and you're just laying your baby back there. The kids, just here's a modified seatbelt. Strap your 3-month-old in because they didn't have car seats. If you weren't going to put it on mom's lap, the baby wasn't going to be in the car, or you're just going to let it roll around on the floor. All those old advertisements for those things drive me insane. So context matters. And in the NHL, the old veteran guys, I mean, you can go and get your Google out right now. You can find a lot of pictures from the time when goalie masks weren't even like common practice. And those guys, their faces looks like they've been put through wood chippers.
My favorite story from our good friend, the late Steve Klauke, was his first NHL game at Chicago Stadium. The goalies didn't have masks.
What? Can you imagine that in 2025?
Insane.
It'd be lethal. Anyway.
And no masks, and you saw their padding or lack thereof.
Yeah, the padding is just like a rolled up sweatshirt.
Just like an episode of Jackass going out and playing goalie in the NHL.
Yeah, crazy. All right. So 3-game road stretch, Anaheim, Vancouver, Calgary. What do the Mammoth need to achieve here? How many points do they need to come out of this with?
Well, funny you ask, Sean, because going out onto this road trip, my goal was to take 6 of 12 points.
All right.
And that's still possible.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
For me, Anaheim tonight, first place team in the Pacific Division. Okay, here we go. Good chance to get right against the best. And 3-3 to me, I think, still doable. You just got to go play. That's one of my favorite quotes ever from Ron McBride, and he'd say this a lot. He's walking off the field at halftime. Sharice Shaw's interviewing him on KJazz. And, Utah's having a tough game in the WAC in Rice Stadium in Houston playing, and he's, we just got to go play. We just got to play. They just got to go play. That's what they have to do. They just have to go play. I love the roster. I wouldn't do a thing with the roster. I'm excited Daniil Boot is up. I think he'll help and be fun and add some excitement, but just got to go play. And you beat Anaheim tonight. You got 2 games left. Vancouver's been struggling. Calgary's been struggling. But it's really about, not about the high danger chances Anaheim gives up, because you got to generate the high danger chances first on your end to to score on a high danger chance, right? So I think just go out and play. Just clear mind.
Clear mind, full hearts can't lose.
That's it.
Let's go.
Just got to go play.
Simple as that. This time, wear your helmets, boys.
Safety first.
That's Between the Pipes with Adrian Denny, brought to you by Aladdin Industries and Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck. All right, Daily Dump. It's an hour delayed today, but that's coming. A little potpourri of stories here on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Daily Dump, look for the truck with the duck for all your plumbing and drain cleaning needs. Valley Plumbing brings you the Daily Dump. Look, signing day. We haven't even talked enough about signing day today. Utah's class is shaping up pretty much exactly how they expected it to so far. Bear Fisher has signed, Taysom Reed, Kane Archer, Major Hinchin, Rowdy Pierce, Dylan Waters, LaGarry Mitchell, Isa Galeai, Preston Pitts, Moses Sparks Jr., LaMarcus Bell, PJ Takitaki, Matali'i Benjamin, big-time recruit for them, 4-star, and Kelvin Obot. They are all signed, all right? Signed, sealed, delivered. Bum, bum, bum. The Lone Peak twins, Jaron and Kenan Pula, we're still waiting. You knew there was going to be significant pushes from several different schools, and BYU is first and foremost among them. I was among the many who saw that Jaron was wearing BYU gloves in the Utah high school football playoffs and didn't like that the optic on that at all. Now, there's a chance that you just like to stir things up. There's a chance that you just got a pair of gloves from your uncle who, gave you their good look for you or whatever. Not a good look. So the hope is that the Pula twins end up signing today. Also, Utah did flip a Michigan State commit out of Seattle, Washington. Famiatau Siale is a 6'4", 260-pound edge. He's a 3-star, and he was committed to Michigan State. Michigan State fired Jonathan Smith, and Pat Fitzgerald is going to be their new head coach. Pat Fitzgerald, I don't think has been recruiting at all because he's been kind of on the shelf. So that's going to be a tough class for him to put together, but Utah potentially benefits from it by grabbing a 3-star that they didn't know they were going to have. Again, the ratings, the rankings, they matter because these services, they do a really good job. The people who evaluate this talent, they do a much better job even than they did 10 years ago. However, you can't get overly excited until I hear these freshmen mentioned multiple times in fall camp. I'm not excited about them signing, really. Those are the guys that you're just like, oh, cool, he's here. All right, wonderful. And then when we go up there and we stand around in the scrum and all of us are sweating and trying not to lean on each other with holding our microphones out for Kyle Whittingham as the jugs machine goes in the background, distorts your sound, and then you hear one person who stood out for you today. They used to be Dirk Facer. Shout out to the late, great Dirk Facer. Used to be Dirk. Now Josh Furlong's usually the guy who does it. And then there's an opportunity for the coaching staff or for other players to say what we heard this year. Hey, man, I'll tell you what, J.J. Buchanan's he's been good. He's been really interesting. By the way, I got trashed in the offseason for when I asked the question about who was going to be QB number 2, who's going to be the most important backup quarterback for Utah, because I put Bird Ficklin in instead of the Zurbrugg, the Oklahoma transfer. I had like 5 people calling me a casual, saying I didn't know what I was talking about.
I remember that you put it on a poll and you left out Zurbrugg. Who was he even with the team this year? If he was,
no, he's with the team.
He's with the team. Okay,
yeah, he's been practicing. He's been on the sidelines for every game.
He's been the hand signal guy on the sidelines.
And I don't. No insult to him. I live that life.
Absolutely not. And I apologize for not realizing that. But that's just, and I didn't mean anything by that. It's just to say how much of a non-factor he was.
He wasn't a factor, and people assume because he transferred from a big-time school, he was going to be a factor. And sometimes you talk to people who are on the team or coaching staff, and they tell you where expectations are and where excitement lies with which players. And maybe you construct your polls because of that. Let it be a lesson to all of us. But that's what I'm listening for with any of these guys, right? I mean, I guess not with Kelvin Obot, because for him to be named a top 10 player in the country at any position, that's a big deal. Even if it's by, a recruiting service that's not your favorite. That's a big deal. He's a 5-star athlete.
What are you saying about a certain recruiting service, OC?
No, I mean, they're all competing, right? And
yeah. They all are kind of slightly different too.
I read and listen to all of them, and I watch the huddle tape if it's out there, if I feel like it, and I don't with everyone because who's got the time for that? But guys like Kelvin Obot they don't grow on trees. They don't grow on Fruitland, Idaho trees. For Utah to get him and for Jordan Gross to help guide him down to the University of Utah and for Jim Harding to have the team he has right now, the offensive line he has right now, to attract a player like that is a monster deal for the University of Utah. He's one of those guys who could start even at offensive line as a true freshman. That's something that you don't typically ask of a guy, but someone with his ceiling, you might. So that's good. Also in the recruiting news, as BYU presumably experiences the benefits of having locked up Kalani Sitake for the long-term future with a lucrative contract and with promises of NIL support and all that kind of stuff, that builds recruiting momentum. That's a good thing. And that is, by the way, that's a reason why the Pula offer is scaring me a little bit. But Ryder Lyons, right, 5-star quarterback that everyone down there in Provo is very, very excited about, he's going to wait till after his mission to actually sign, which for him is probably a good idea right now because he's going to want to know what Bear Bachmeier – first of all, he's going to do the right thing. He's going to focus on, the task at hand and what's going on with the Mish. And then he's going to, however long that lasts, and I guess the plan is a 1 year. Didn't know that was possible, but I guess it is. He's going to make his plans accordingly. Well, Bear Bachmeier might be a factor that he had not previously accounted for. And now you're adjusting to that by deciding not to sign today. Totally fine. Not a bad idea at all.
And not atypical for return missionaries or high school prospects who plan on going on missions, right? There's plenty of them who are like, I'm not going to be going to college anytime in for a couple of years anyway, so I'll just sign. I'll sign when I'm back.
A little anticlimactic to be like, I signed at BYU. Okay, what does that mean? They're not allowed to talk about me by name. Oh, that's it? Yeah. Before they couldn't. There's NCAA rules against it. So now that I signed, Kalani Sitake could say by name that he's excited about Ryder Lyons.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
After his 12-month, 18-month, however long his mission's going to be, which of course was somewhat a big story in the summer.
I guess if you're a Utah fan, you're excited that PJ Takitaki, yes, of that Takitaki clan, is coming to Utah instead of to BYU. Whenever you can steal a legacy one way or another. Also, Josh Furlong is reporting, I haven't seen the latest update, as of a couple hours ago, Ben Moa's kid, who, by the way, is he's the best of the Moa kids that have come through so far. Celesi Moa had not signed. He's committed to Tennessee, but he has not signed.
Oh.
And Furlong was reporting that Utah's making a late push. That would be a big get.
Receiver, right?
Receiver, yeah.
Yeah,
and really athlete.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think receiver is probably where he's going to be of the most immediate use at the next level.
I mean, it's a position it's a broken record at this point. It's a position of need in the program. It seemingly always has been, so that would be huge.
By the way, for people who don't know, Ben Moa, the father, and his mom's maiden name was Nuno. Carlos and Daniel Nuno were college football players. Carlos was the bigger brother. He had his cup of coffee in the NFL. He was a BYU tight end. Big monster dude. Daniel Nuno actually was at University of Utah when I was and transferred to Weber State when I was up there. So
inspiration for you.
So mom's family also athletic, and of course dad is still competing in athletics in combat sports at age, I think he's 44, and Ben Moa is still doing like bare knuckle boxing and stuff.
Would you? I mean, you've been retired a minute now. You wouldn't take Ben Moa.
What do you mean take him?
Like you
could
would
I beat him? Could I beat him in like an MMA fight? Absolutely.
Like you
would
would.
I want to?
Yeah.
Would
At this point, would you want to go up against him?
Would I want to go up against Ben Moa? No. Because he's a big athletic dude.
Yeah.
Like that's a tough out for anybody. Ben's nasty. I've trained with Ben.
Yeah, have you?
Yeah.
So do you do a little sparring, a little?
Yeah, we did a little
bit of
sparring.
fighting.
Very, very light sparring, like friendly sparring, like so.
Like not really getting hurt.
Well, when you're
very much at all,
and when you're sparring with someone for like the first, second, third time or whatever, and when it's somebody like Ben, and I hope at least he had this mentality too. When he's sparring against someone like me, you're like, if I let this become too competitive, and I let this become a fight, it could be bad. It could go badly for me. You know what I mean? Like you don't go to the gym.
You got to be real careful about.
You don't go to the gym being like, I'm going to fight Ben Moa today. I'm happy to spar with Ben Moa today. You don't go to the gym being like, I think I'll fight Ben Moa today, because there's a strong possibility that doesn't go your way, and then you're just like, crap. I just got beat up for no reason. Nobody paid me for it, and I no longer get to walk around thinking I'm the baddest dude in Utah or whatever. Because now I've established that Ben Moa, who is bigger than me, is also a better fighter than me. So, like, I don't think that's true, but I never really found out on purpose because we were sparring and it was like, okay.
Good for you.
But I also think he had the same mentality sparring with me. I don't know. We'd have to get him on and ask him. But I also think there was a little bit of that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. We should get Ben on the show.
We should.
Especially if his son flips and comes to Utah.
That's a good idea.
We absolutely should. Did you see the Chris Paul story that's making the rounds?
Well, it's on my television right now here in the studio. Clippers announced Chris Paul will no longer be with the team in an overnight move.
Yeah, so when they say overnight, they mean overnight. So last night, as you can see on NBA Today on ESPN television, it says sent home to Los Angeles from Atlanta, where the Clippers play the Hawks tonight. So they flew to Atlanta. He was on the plane, and then they said, "You know what? Go ahead and go back. And by the way, you're not part of the team anymore." Basically, now what that means is they have options to either waive him, which would mean they'd be on the hook for the rest of his salary, or they can trade him, but they can't do that till December 15th because he was signed as a free agent in the offseason, and that's the rules with that. But here's the juiciest part of it, OC. Apparently, he and Ty Lue have not been on speaking terms for several weeks.
Ty Lue, his head coach?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So in little battles with his head coach, and the team's like, you know what? You barely play for us anyway. You're 40 years old. You're not who you used to be, and we suck. We're probably going to be about as bad with or without you. So you know what? Why don't you just go?
Wow.
That's Shams reporting that, by the way, that they haven't talked for several weeks.
So in your second stint with this franchise, you get dismissed, sent home, and I guess unceremoniously cut, waived,
whatever they're going to do,
sent to the principal's office.
And this is like arguably the greatest player in franchise history when he was with them before. And this is how he exits. And the other layer to this is, you remember, I think we talked about it with Gordy Chiesa the day that this announcement came out. He just announced that this will be his final season. So you're thinking, okay, he's gonna ride off into the sunset on a team where he played his best years and had it, was closest to a championship other than that run to with the Suns to the finals. And that just all falls apart because he and Ty Lue have some kind of disagreement that he doesn't want to talk to his head coach anymore. Just insane. I don't know. Does another team pick him up? I don't know. At his age and how he's a shell of himself at this point. I don't know if he does.
I don't know. He's been part of 7 NBA franchises.
Yeah.
This is his second stint with the Clippers, obviously. And he is a 12-time All-Star, an 11-time All-NBA player, former Rookie of the Year, 9-time All-Defensive Team, All-Star MVP, 75th anniversary team, top 75 players in NBA history, right? 5 times he's been the NBA assist champ, 6 times he's been the NBA steals champ. And look, I'm not a Chris Paul fan because he's one of those guys who's just obnoxious, incredibly annoying unless he's part of your team or a team that you care about. So there are 7 different fan bases that have some reason to hold Chris Paul in a place of affection. The Jazz are not one of them, obviously. But this would be a really kind of disappointing end to what has been undeniably a very, very illustrious NBA career.
He's going to walk into the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's got the nickname Point God for a reason. Like he's on the short list of greatest point guards, and not just like today we have a lot of guards who play the point guard position, but they're not really point guards. He's a John Stockton, Magic Johnson, like true point guard.
Yes.
And
I love and long for the days when the debate every single season was whether or not Chris Paul or Darren Williams was the best point guard in the game. Previous to the injuries bug that ended up plaguing Darren.
Your guy, Darren Williams.
That was a fun conversation and debate that happened year after year, and unfortunately not for the entirety of Darren's career because the injuries started to pile up.
Yeah.
And, Chris kind of pulled away with that. But
yeah, and it really was for about the first 3 to 5 years of Darren Williams' career. There was a legitimate argument that he was better than Chris Paul, and he was going to have a better career than Chris Paul. And then he left Utah, and like you said, injuries started to pile up, and that quickly became an obsolete conversation. Yeah, those were fun years. And you say Jazz are not one of those franchises. They very well could have been one of those franchises that is, hey, that's our guy, Chris Paul. They chose Darren Williams instead. But like you said, that looked like it was the right choice for the first little bit there. Yeah, what a bizarre way to end his career, because I'm not sure if there's a reason for another team to pick him up at this point, OC.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I don't know exactly like how this went down, but if he's becoming like a little cantankerous, a little grumpy in his old age, is that worth it for you? Maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll close out the show with some topical trivia. We'll give away a couple of tickets to Evanescence coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on July 25th. Sean O'Connell Show. One last segment next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Apparently, this is also an Evanescence song. I thought they just had the one. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92 on FM. We have Evanescence tickets to give away. If you know the answer to this question, 877-353-0700, how well do you know your Utah football recruiting history? Kelvin Obot signed today. He becomes the highest-rated recruit in Utah program history. Previous to today, who was the man who held that distinction? The Utah football player who came out of high school as the highest-rated, previous to Kelvin Obot signing today as a 5-star, top 5 player in the entire country, according to the recruiting services. Big get for Kyle Whittingham's program. Sean O'Connell Show wrapping up here. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next. He's here in our Broadway studios. Hi.
Hello, Sean. Do you remember once upon a time when signing day was the biggest day of the year? You'd like cover it start to finish. That's all you talked about?
Well, yeah. It was also in February when you had like semi-important college basketball games going on and not much else. Yeah.
Yeah, and now with the transfer portal, it just feels like another day. I mean, of course, it's still important. Not
Massively.
like it's not important. But I can remember, like, having programming meetings, like, weeks ahead of signing day. Like, what are we going to do for that day?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, obviously still a big deal. I'm thinking about your question. I have a couple of guesses. Is it a quarterback?
It is not.
It's not a quarterback. Is it a defensive player?
Yes.
Is it a linebacker?
No.
Is it a defensive lineman?
No.
What? Oh, wait, I know who it is.
Okay.
No, I know who it is, and I should have known who
Do you want to eliminate any of the other positions that
No, I just needed to think about it for longer than 10 seconds.
You got halfway through.
He's currently playing in the NFL, yes?
Correct.
Yes, friend of the show. Did somebody text in the right answer?
Yes, the right answer has come in.
Clark Phillips.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, I should have known that.
Clark Phillips.
I did not need to go through the process of elimination.
How
to know
about
it
this
was
one?
Clark.
84-11, Kevin Dyson. That would be great.
Not a bad guess. Played against Kevin in high school basketball. He was a good basketball player.
Jalen Johnson.
Not bad.
Now, I think Lander Barton actually gets mentioned because I think one recruiting service had him as the highest-rated player that Utah ever got, but Clark is the universally accepted answer.
What is the recruiting service you look at the most? You look at 247? You look at ESPN?
I do enjoy 247, and I like Rivals.
Rivals.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll have to. I mostly look at the ESPN and the 247. I'll check out Rivals more.
The ESPN one, like a lot of the stuff they do, feels to me like there's a popularity marketing element to it as much as there like these other recruiting services, and I don't deride them. I used to deride them pretty heavily because there was a time when they were like the people working for these services were just like sports guys who couldn't get jobs anywhere else. And now that's not the case. Now they have kind of like Pro Football Focus. They've got guys who really know their stuff watching these, and they just are dedicated to high school sports as they eventually, most of them transition on to other things.
The main criticism I have of them, and let me be clear, I love the fact that we have people that specialize in this, because once upon a time, before we had like social media, podcasts, as a host, you felt like you had to know everything, right? Yeah. So it's great that you have people that just dig into recruiting because you can have them on the show and let's talk about things. I'm not grinding high school tape. I'm just not. I don't have time to do it. But it seems like such an inexact science where a lot of the 4 or 5 star guys, like 2 years later, haven't even played.
Yeah. And they're getting much, much better with that, especially with 5 stars. They're real stingy with distributing the 5 stars. And it is an inexact science because not only is it hard to project what a guy's going to be, what his body's going to become, et cetera, but also when you're watching high school tape, there is no control test for the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like when you're watching a state championship game in Utah now, you know that the guys who stand out in that game are probably high-quality college players. When you're watching, and I use Panay Sewell as an example all the time, but when you're watching Panay Sewell's high school tape where he's going against 3A competition in St. George, Utah, and he is a 6'5" monster with real athleticism, you're like, that might be the best high school player to ever exist.
Yeah.
Or he might not see another 165-pound defensive end for the rest of his life.
Well, I'm sure you know how it goes. I mean, you play high school football and basketball with kids that can barely walk. And they made the team because their uncle happens to be like the cornerbacks coach or something. You're like, dude, and so it's hard. That's why in basketball, you're analyzed AAU and camps. You're not really analyzed with your high school season because, the best players play AAU. They're at ABCD. They're at, 5-star. They're at Nike. They're at the Hoop Summit. It's hard to analyze if you're just playing a regular high school schedule because there's so many kids that played high school basketball. They're just really, really bad.
But the overall point is that the recruiting services do a better job than they ever have. Still, you got to coach them up when they get to your school, and the player has personal accountability to whether or not they ever grow into their potential or whether they exceed that potential. And I remind people all the time that the best players ever in the history of Utah football, ever, were not highly recruited players. They weren't.
Yeah.
Like, Alex Smith was not a highly recruited guy. Eric Weddle was not a highly recruited guy, very famously in both of those cases.
Mm-hmm.
Luther Ellis he had a bunch of options.
Yeah.
All right. Like,
he was a man-child.
Garrett Bowles had a bunch of options.
Yeah.
Starlo Tulele had a bunch of options. But the folks we hold up as the best to ever do it at this school were not necessarily highly recruited players. So you get a good mix of both. Some of the most important players on this year's team were not super highly recruited guys.
Devin couldn't get an offer from anybody in his backyard.
Yeah.
Right? Like, didn't it? I think Kenny Dillingham came out and was like, yeah, I should have offered
Yeah, I should offer that kid. He's a pretty good player.
Before I say you lose, I have a public apology to give.
Okay. All right.
Received a couple of direct messages yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry for referring to the CEO of Crumble Cookie as a human cookie. Made me feel
Why?
bad.
He took it as an insult?
I didn't hear from him. But I heard from a few. It's really funny when I hear from BYU fans that are like, hey, just so you know, I listen to you and Sean.
Oh, thanks.
We're like, again, I've told you, we're like the alt indie band from the 90s for BYU fans. They don't want to tell anyone that they're just jamming REM every day, but we're that to them.
We're the club that they go to on Saturday nights that their friends don't know about because it's up in Salt Lake.
Exactly. Like, hey, what are you doing tonight? No, nothing. Going to bed. No, I'm listening to Spence and Sean. So I love hearing from BYU fans who actually do listen to us. But I got a couple of emails like, hey, lay off our guy. Lay off Cookie Bro. Kalani got that cookie money. It's so I apologize for saying yesterday that the CEO of Crumble Cookies, to me, looks like if I thought, like, what does a sugar cookie look like as a person, I would land on him. And I apologize for saying that, and I applaud his effort to keep Kalani in Provo.
All right. Well, I'm glad he got off the sidelines and they got that deal done.
Cringe, as the kids would say. Nice Avengers Unite tweet, bro. Way to pay the fine that
that never came.
Way to pay the fine that was never handed down.
He made a charitable donation instead.
By the way, how does that work? Like, Cookie Bro, okay? He gets the bat signal. And he's like, all right,
it's shaped like a cookie.
I've got to stop kneading dough over here, whatever the hell he's doing, and get on the sideline. Does he write a check for like $10 million to BYU? And is that tax deductible? Like, how do these things work?
Probably yes in both cases.
Okay.
And I mean, as silly as it is when you're not in the position to be able to do that thing, how fun would it be? I mean, legitimately, how fun would it be to be able to call your favorite school and just be like, I hear that you're maybe having trouble coming up with the money necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I got your problem solved.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a good parking spot and kiss my behind every time you see me.
And also, by the way, over the past 24 hours, I've heard like 5 or 6 of the biggest national college football podcasts talk about Crumble Cookie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a marketing ploy that's going to be brilliant for our guy, Cookie Bro. I just wondered how that, and does BYU then have to give 10% of the $10 million to the LDS Church?
James Franklin on signing day,
brilliant, by the way,
had Crumble Cookie boxes visible in the videos.
Brilliant. So congrats to our guy, Cookie Bro, my guy. Yeah, Utah needs some cookie money. The University of Utah needs cookie money. BYU has cookie money. What does Utah have?
Spaghetti money?
Well, we need something.
Remember that bucket of spaghetti restaurant on 21st South that was open?
Did you ever try it?
No.
Neither did I, but I would drive by. I'm like, there's got to be, it's closed now. So obviously it wasn't great spaghetti.
It had to be a money laundering front.
Wasn't it literally called A Bucket of Spaghetti as well?
Yes.
That was the name of the
Yes.
restaurant.
Yes. You know what? I need a Netflix special on how you make that profitable.
Well, apparently it didn't. It's closed.
$16 for spaghetti for $9.
Here's a bucket of spaghetti.
How many touchdowns did true freshmen score for the University of Utah this year? Before I let you go do your show.
Bird had
Bird's
a
lot.
word.
How many did they how many total touchdowns?
I'm going to guess 15.
Very close, 16.
16.
Well done.
Huh. All right. I should have known Clark. Bummer. Bird had 10. Very nice. Congrats. Let's get some cookie money at Utah.
Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's ESPN 700 and 92 on FM.